Welcome back, everyone, to episode 5 of Hotline League. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a call-in show that we do on a semi-weekly basis. I'd like to introduce you to some of my co-hosts for this event, this particular episode. First off, we got Mark Zimmerman, who's a mainstay for the show. How's it going, Mark?
I'm doing great. When did we become like some PBS late night chill? We can't. You sound like you're gonna go to sleep in a second.
Listen, Mark, it's viewers like you that make this show possible, and that's why I'd like to suggest that you sub to the Twitch chat. No, actually,
I got gifted.
Yeah, you got gifted. But our guest for this episode is Kelby May, who's returning to us after an episode break. You can tell how great it is and how easy we can get access to guests when Kelby's returning after one episode off. How's it going, Kelby?
You already found the pinnacle of guests. What else would you want?
Yeah, and Nick Allen, and he couldn't make it this week, so Kelby's back again.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks. Glad you could be on the show. And, okay, I'm not going to keep doing that. Mark, do you want to explain the premise for the show and what the whole deal is?
Absolutely. So if you guys have not ever joined us for this before, here's how this works. You guys are going to want to go to this Discord that I'm spamming in the chat right now. You want to join that. And when you get there, you're going to see that there is some voice channels. There's General and General 2. You're going to want to join those. And then in the General text channel, you're going to type out your questions, your takes, your opinions. And we want strong takes. You know, you think 100 Thieves is going to suck. You hate Nadeshot. You love the move of bringing Afro in. Whatever you want to talk about. You thought the Our Sport video was dumb because esports aren't real sports. You bring any opinion on the show, we talk about it.
Yeah,
so,
I'd love to talk to that person.
Yeah. Also, AllStar. Did you mention AllStar?
Oh, yeah, there's AllStars going on. So there's scouting grounds just last week. So there's a lot of stuff you guys can call in and talk about, and we will field all of it.
Yeah. So as everyone is getting ready and coming up with ideas, I think we're going to spend we usually spend the first 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, but I think this week it'll be short, just chatting about some of the things that have been happening recently as a way to get everybody's kind of thoughts going. Maybe you hear an opinion on the show that you think is dumb, whatever. And again, I'd like to just get to Kelby really quickly for those that missed the show that he was on. Kelby, you want to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I used to run CLG for a couple years. That's where most people know me from. And then after that, I went to Evil Geniuses and ran sponsorship accounts and talent for a while. We got acquired by Twitch. Did that while EG was at Twitch for a while, and then Twitch divested EG and Alliance, and now I do sponsorship sales for some Twitch partnered teams. So Evil Geniuses, Alliance, TSM, Cloud9, and Team Liquid.
There you go. So he works at Twitch, and he has all sorts of insider knowledge on EG, Alliance, Team Liquid, and TSM. And if you guys want to know anything specific about any of that, he's your guy. He'll tell you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's been happening. So maybe we should start off with, what should we start off with? You want to start off with any additional roster announcements or anything that got confirmed? I did several interviews with teams. You guys find any of that stuff interesting?
I'd love to hear Mark's opinion on the team owners that Travis did interviews with, and who, or just like the various people from these orgs and who impressed him, especially from the new people coming in. From what little you've heard so far.
So I haven't watched every one of his interviews, but Nadeshot is very charismatic, and I like having him in the scene because he is so charismatic. But a lot of what he says is like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll have people who do. And I think Prawl is good for that. So, 100 Thieves is making me kind of a fan just because in terms of the people Travis has interviewed, he's one of the least kind of like stuffy PR guy and most kind of, once again, quote unquote, authentic to esports. I like seeing Daryl Morey just because, or however you say his name.
Daryl Morey, yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, what the hell? He was at Scouting Grounds. I had no idea that he actually is like there and caring. So that was really cool to me. This wasn't Travis's interview, but the Kirk, the Golden State Warriors guy. Kirk,
you're breaking up, Mark. Can't hear what you're saying.
Anyways, I saw an interview with him, and I was not impressed with that one.
Yeah. Well, it was an interview not with me, so I think that's part of the problem. That's why you weren't impressed, right? Yeah.
Most likely. There's a couple others, but most of the new teams, like Optic, They're okay. I don't know. I'm not super impressed by anybody because I just have such high standards.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Really? I was impressed by some of them. By the way, thanks Bohey for the for the host of 113 viewers. If you're watching, this is not a French Canadian stream, but hopefully you'll understand the English. Anyway, the point is, I actually think, just to kind of echo Mark's statements, my lineup now, because I've interviewed all 4 of the new teams, right? Clutch, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think a lot of people aren't as hype about Golden Guardians because they haven't announced their roster yet. But Kelby and I are both very good personal friends with Hunter, so I'm really interested to see what he does with that. Recommend people check out that interview. Nadeshot is fascinating to me because, okay, I gave 100 Thieves a lot of shit, I think the last time Kelby was on the show. I believe more in them now, but I don't know why, which makes me think that it's just Nadeshot's charisma that is making
that's
me
exactly
believe
what
in
I was
him.
saying. Like, I watched that interview and then the 100 Thieves Afro announcement. I'm just like, God, I love this team. And then I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What did you think about the announcement being him and Prolly just like essentially doing a vlog
the Afro
announcement?
thing today, you're saying.
And and Afro, he's not in it at all. They don't have an image of him in the thumbnail on the tweet or in the video that appears. It's just talk. It's not like, I don't know.
I mean, their content strategy right now is very clearly Nadeshot is a YouTuber.
Right.
He's our content house. Get Nadeshot in front with some jump cuts, and there you go.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? We're really excited to talk about Afro coming 100 Thieves. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that they come up with something a little bit more because it's going to be hard whenever it's like, what's up, everybody? It's Nadeshot here. Halfway through the season, we haven't been doing too well. We're announcing a roster swap. You know, like, it's just going to be...
So, to be fair, I agree about, like, you probably want something a little bit more professional looking, but I do like that it's different at least. Like, I like, went comatose watching, like, the 5th Team Liquid, like, thank you, and, like, TSM, thank you, and CLG, thank you, and thank you. I'm so thankful for the thankful players that thank me, and, like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, their dedication videos.
Yeah. So, like,
I noticed on the Cloud9 YouTube earlier today, they actually have a dedication playlist.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, and I had that exact same thought. I was like, wow, we've gotten to this point, right?
Yeah.
Where we have dedications.
I by the way, I guess I should say I also hung out with Prolly before I interviewed Nadeshot. Actually, it was the day before he and I got lunch, and so that's part of the reason I think I'm a little bit more. I believe in a little bit more in 100 Thieves because it sounds like they're doing some really cool stuff behind the scenes that I don't even know if we got to all of that in the interviews I did. But so we talked about Golden Guardians, 100 Thieves. Optic is really interesting to me because it sounds like it's really Romain who's going to be what that team, you know, it lives or dies based on his involvement. I'm sure they have other people involved, but he's really another charismatic, enthusiastic guy, just with an accent. But I think he did a lot of really good stuff with Unicorns of Love. It'll be interesting to see what he can accomplish with a lot more funding.
Can I say that of all the pieces I've seen so far from these new people, that Romain personally impressed me the most?
Yeah.
I really like. I hadn't really gotten to hear him speak a whole bunch, and like from the Unicorns of Love thing, as an NALCS primarily fan, I only know him as like, you know, the cut dude who's running around doing crazy antics with his shirt off.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated in his interview with you, Travis, how he explained a lot of his thinking and approach to not just like team stuff, but the greater org and how they're running it as a whole.
Yeah.
And a lot of his thing, and like not only that, but how he got to those reasonings and like those reasons that they would play out in certain areas, which I always really appreciate. And I think a lot of his logic followed really well. I think that maybe he had one or two assumptions that I would combat, but I think that on the whole, I really appreciate how he's thinking about the space.
He's definitely the most transparent interview, I would say.
Yeah.
Which was cool. So, and then who am I forgetting? Oh, Clutch, yes. So interviewed Sebastian. I've known Sebastian for a while, but I think people can disagree with his assessments, but I think, you know, he's very methodical, and the way they're going about Clutch seems to be very methodical. they definitely have, from what it sounds like the most support staff, at least on like the analytical, figuring out, what the strengths of all these players are and that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see if all this kind of extra thought process in watching VODs and all this kind of stuff can translate into them like outmaneuvering or doing special things in the game that like nobody else. Mark, you seem very skeptical.
It's I read their like first post where they were like, we took these steps and we did some cool stuff to try and calculate time between this stuff. And I read the whole thing, and it sounded like by the end of it, there was like, and we still have nothing really.
You mean their analytical thing about like how long it takes to get places on the map or whatever?
Yeah, they're like, and then we did some AllStar pathing, and I was like, yo, anyone who took like computer science 1 knows what AllStar pathing is. Like that's I don't know. Like, and then they said like we did a bunch of other complex shit, and they didn't get into that part at all, which is like the part that would probably interest people. And I don't know. It was just like, you're gonna have to convince me that like your analytics are really something cool, because I've been a part of a lot of analytical projects that try and come up with advanced metrics for League of Legends, and it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Not saying it's impossible, but I want to see it.
And then I don't think very many people have watched the Daryl Morey interview. I would watch that. This guy, for context, guys, he's like one of the major figures in the NBA in terms of the management side. He has been very successful with a very kind of methodical process that he has taken with the Rockets over time. He is one of the reasons why the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference exists, which I know a lot of people don't know who that is, but it's literally this big conference where all the data nerds get together and talk about all like the crazy math side of sports that MIT helps host in Boston. I was there earlier this year. Just check it out. It's kind of cool to see him at Scouting Grounds. Like, he was literally in the audience with his phone out, and whenever he like Clutch had 2 draft picks, and he would like hold up his phone and record like the draft thing, because he, in his mind, this is such a historic time. And I think he kind of compared it in the interview to going back to like the first drafts that took place in the NBA and all that stuff. And so he's really hyped on this stuff. Yeah, it's neat. It's the first time I've seen, like, besides maybe Rick Fox, but Rick Fox kind of coming from a different angle, someone so invested and passionate from the sports side. So it's kind of neat.
And having watched the interview, I will say he's not Nadeshot. Like, he's not the charismatic guy. It can be a little bit dry of an interview, but like, you need to understand who the guy is in terms of who he is outside League of Legends, and why it's so cool that he's kind of just like hanging around, not like, I'm here for the press conference. Duh.
Yeah. He does start the interview by calling out the other senior execs. He's like, you don't see anybody from Warriors here. You don't see. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But enough promoting my interviews. I've got 2 quick things for you guys before we go into calls, and then people can.
Travis, are you drinking, by the way?
Yes, I have this wonderful Nestle Pure Life thing. They probably stole this water from a local reservation or something, I don't know, but I'm drinking it. Next up, we got AllStars. I'm excited to go to AllStars. I think it'll be fun and interesting. I think Riot has no fucking clue what they're doing with AllStars. How can you say that this is a serious event when there's no prize pool and none of these guys are probably prepping for it, and like the meta is just a shit show, etc. I do not know. I do not think Riot knows what to do with AllStars. I'm excited that it's kind of a return to the first year, but even the first year had a lot of fun with it, with like the magma chamber stuff and all that kind of thing. So I'm just happy that it's not 2 weeks in another country like it was before, where I was just like, why am I even here? Like, this is a shit show. 4 quick days, should be fun. We'll see. I don't know.
I think it's the kind of thing where it's a really hard tournament to make like successful for the viewers, where like, if you make it too serious, but it's at this timing, people will just be like, why does this have such weight when it's, clearly a stupid tournament? And then if you make it like too troll, people are like, why would I ever watch this? So yeah. I have thought a decent amount about how to make AllStars great, and I haven't come up with a great solution.
Yeah, I think having a prize pool that is significant would help everyone try a little harder for this. That's my take. Like, Peter isn't at AllStars, and while he and I have not spoken about it, it's pretty obvious that Peter can make significant money by streaming, and he has gone to AllStars in the past and always just lost money by doing that. Like it's not. It doesn't feel good when you are investing time into this thing and it's not necessarily going to pay out for you. I don't know. I think that's part of the problem, is there's just nothing on the line, and it's kind of embarrassing, I think, that there's nothing on the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, also shout out to Cop in the Twitch chat, hanging out, just spamming Franker Z's. I don't know what's going on. Joker Steve as
Said
well.
he was the best at some point earlier.
Yeah. Finally, let's talk about Scouting Grounds. I thought Scouting Grounds was cool. I enjoyed the fact that they did. It felt more like a show this year than kind of this behind the scenes thing. Like they had the whole draft at the end of it. I thought that was kind of neat, and it was interesting to sort of see Cloud9 get draft picks that they had, I don't know, gained from other teams. I don't know if it was purchased or not.
They bought them, yeah.
Yeah, they bought them. And I thought that was interesting to sort of see how that stuff is starting to happen. So you already have some teams that are seeing the value there, at least enough to pay. Who knows how much they were paying, if it was $20 or $20,000. There was a bit of a scandal.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you not see this, Mark?
I think I know what you're talking about, but go for it.
So there was a
give
tweet.
the viewers the context.
There was a tweet where, okay, so for context, before Scouting Grounds happened, there were players that were supposed to go to Scouting Grounds that started to get picked up by teams. What are you doing with your hands, Mark?
I don't know. It's just
emphasizing.
Like that's like
there
yeah,
were
what
players that needed to get picked up by teams, and what started to happen is Scouting Grounds started to crumble because the players that were supposed to go to Scouting Grounds started to get signed to teams or whatever. This is I was not following most of this, so please take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt.
I'll
correct
correct
me if
you
I'm wrong.
you get
Yeah.
too far off base.
And so Riot implemented a rule where if you're going to Scouting Grounds, you can't get there's like poaching protection essentially. Teams cannot approach any of these guys about signing them or whatever. What I heard was that, and there was another tweet about this from somebody I forget, and then the tweet got deleted. Yeah, was that there were players who had sort of handshake agreements, so nothing contractual or whatever, that they would get signed by a team. Because basically when you get drafted, you have, I think, 21 days, 22 days to...
21-day exclusivity window.
So, let's say Kelby is drafting Mark at the end of Scouting Grounds. Mark can't go sign with anybody else for 21 days, and Kelby has 21 days to make a deal that Mark will feel happy about signing or whatever. The problem was that supposedly there were deals in place where if certain players or whatever were going to go to certain teams and just wait out the 21 days and then sign with them. So I don't know the full extent of that. No proof has been made available to me. But to in my opinion, the fact that this kind of stuff is a little rumored demonstrates just kind of a flaw in the Scouting Grounds system, and one that was already started to get noticed when you had players that were supposed to go to Scouting Grounds and started to get signed ahead of time.
Yeah, so obviously I was on the broadcast side, and we're not going to talk about any of that because we're just trying to make the event fun and everything. And I think there was definitely clearly some of that was in play, and it was just I think an oversight on the Scouting Grounds structure that they didn't say when you apply to Scouting Grounds you forfeit your right to negotiate with teams until the event is over.
Yeah.
I think that's all they needed to say, and they just didn't have that in place because they didn't think all the talent would get signed up like that. And then once it started happening, they kind of tried to do it retroactively, but by that point half those guys had already had conversations, so it's like, oh yeah, we can't talk anymore, TSM Academy, but once this is done. And I think that's a lot of what happened, whereas people were in the middle of conversations when they were told they couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
Can I offer up a potential hypothetical or suggestion?
Sure.
But it may turn into a larger conversation, so I don't want it to snowball too much. But I've always thought that the potential for a draft in League of Legends, like you have in other traditional sports, especially in the US, would be really, really potentially interesting. Before when you started telling the scandal story, I was thinking about how this might be an issue, and then you mentioned that it was the issue, so it's not surprising to me. What would be potentially really interesting, and I'm literally coming up with this off the top of my head, so there may be holes, and I'd like to, talk more about it, is what if we had a system in place where, and it's kind of tricky for year one, but after that, hopefully it's better. Teams within NALCS are not allowed to pick up North American talent as free agents throughout the year. They are only allowed to pick from their academy team or transfer with other teams, their academy teams or their starting rosters. And then each year, all of the upcoming talent comes or is entered in through scouting grounds. Maybe not through that event because the event probably has to be changed, but some sort of draft. And then it places real emphasis on value for acquiring North American talent through this draft. And then, the event just becomes really important. And then you draft your players. They're entered into your, farm teams. Teams actually have a lot of weight or importance and emphasis on where they're at in the draft and how they're developing their farm teams, because that talent is now your pool that you're able to actually draw from throughout the year, and more really what you're limited to unless you want to make a transfer with another team. And it really provides a clear path for the aspirational player now that doesn't, that I feel like kind of potentially got hampered. And we talked about this in the past, Travis, as a group, with Nick and Hunter and stuff, about what happens to the aspirational path for a North American Challenger player once Challenger League goes away and you have franchising. I think that could potentially add this path. And not only that, I worry that the top 4 teams, TL, TSM, Cloud9, CLG, even with these other franchise teams coming in, they have such a big advantage in acquiring talent. A draft system in which your placement through the regular season gives you a higher position in the draft is a way for, teams that are struggling, especially since they're franchise teams now, to have a way to get top upcoming talent and give them real value to either retain that or get significant compensation for trading it away.
So really quickly, the idea is you can trade with other teams, but you can't import. Correct. Or
you can no. So it only applies to North American talent.
Okay.
Not European talent or Korean talent or whatever.
So there's 2 things. One, I think they would, obviously want to tie in draft position with end of season position, but it was just really awkward this time with 4 new orgs coming in.
Right.
They were just like, what, it's going to be too arbitrary if we try and come up with something else. So let's just say all random for the first one. Also because it's kind of like it's the first time it's happening. Yeah. The thing I don't like about your idea is not being able to sign North American talent throughout the year, because I think that actually hampers the scene's growth. A player like Mike Young would have been sitting on the sidelines the entire year. And then you don't know how good he actually is. You haven't seen him in the LCS yet. He hasn't worked with any coaching staff for a serious amount of time. So he has less opportunities presented to him.
Also, in your system, sorry, Mark.
I was gonna say, it just hurts the player and it hurts the teams, because Phoenix One needs a new jungler. They're clearly failing, but they're hamstrung because they can't take new players from North America, and then that player doesn't get a chance to grow earlier. So I think that part I don't like, but I am fine with the idea of a lockout period, where no one can make roster transactions, which already exist, but you just kind of lump even signing players that aren't under contract yet. You just can't sign anyone for so many weeks until Skyline Grounds is finished.
Also, in Kelby's system, doesn't that mean that a team like the rumored Golden Guardians roster is incentivized to pick foreign talent rather than domestic talent?
We only have so many import slots, right?
Well, they have. The rumor is that they're using none of theirs, right? So mid-season, if they want to get a player, they are only able to pick from Europe, right? Or their academy team?
Their academy team, or you make a transfer with another team. For this first year, like I said, it's really rough.
Yeah.
It's probably something that you start after a year. The only thing, Mark, I get what you're saying on your point. The only thing I worry about is if you don't make that lockout period long enough, then teams just acquire all the good talent throughout the year and you have nothing good left for scouting grounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be really cool to have a player who's super hyped like Mike Young be like, man, people have been waiting to get a shot at this kid for 6 months or something like that. Where does he go in the draft? But yeah, I think that because you're right, with traditional sports, they have college football or college basketball where the guys still have some sort of team
development
competition. Yeah, where they have development, and we don't have that yet. But I would like to see real talent come up through this draft system potentially. It'd be interesting to me.
what happened this draft that I thought was really cool, and it's because of you don't know what was happening with the conversations before, you don't know how much of this was actually influenced by the scouting grounds or not, but in the future, I would love to say it was 100% scouting grounds, was there was this like 16-year-old kid, top laner called League Shiro. He was Cloud9's first pick in the scouting grounds draft. He's a top laner. Cloud9's starting top laner is Licorice, another young North American talent.
Yeah.
So they go to scouting grounds. Their first pick is spent on this guy. They spend the whole week working with him. They clearly decide that they like him, and then they move up in the draft to take him with the first overall pick.
That's cool.
And that is like such a like perfect story for what scouting grounds is trying to achieve here. Where like it gives teams who are at scouting grounds a chance to work with players and decide like, yes, this is a guy I want to pull the trigger on. And obviously with C9 might have been talking to this kid for months, and that makes it kind of feel a little worse. Who knows? But in the future, if like those are the kind of storylines you get, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
All right. Well, we've talked about what rosters,
Too
the new
much.
team owners, and we've talked about. Did Kelly message me? Oh, I see.
No,
that was from before. We've talked about new team owners. We've talked about AllStars, and we've talked about scouting grounds. Now it's time to hear from you guys what you think.
Yep, so I have some people in the waiting room. I'll go down and grab one of them. In the meantime, I'll be paying attention to the general, text chat, looking for some hot takes.
Yeah.
I'll drag people down to the waiting room, and then we'll start.
And I'm gonna try playing an ad.
Ooh.
Oh boy. Well,
we're playing an ad. No one can speak.
Well, I mean, we can talk amongst each other, right?
Yeah, but I don't want. Well, I guess I could mute.
Can they hear us?
Here, I'll mute. All right, we're back from that break, and there we go. I did play the ad. Did you? I think people ran ad block or something.
Wait, people use ad block?
I think people are like, I didn't see an ad, and then I think it's because they just ran ad block, and then they're like, huh, it's very rude. People saw Skyrim ads. That's great. I appreciate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, is it like Skyrim for a Switch or something like that?
Yeah.
Probably.
All right, I got one guy ready.
Yeah. They say Mike is still muted, but I don't think it's muted. I think they're just trolling. You want to pull him in?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. I didn't know what you were waiting.
All right, and we are joined right now by D Hornybrook. D Hornybrook, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Irvine.
Okay. Oh,
Irvine,
so very
nice.
close.
Local.
Very close. And
Oh, sorry. I got the stream in the background, so I've got some loop. There we go. Now I'm clear.
okay. And what do you got for us?
So I have a great question. This is kind of spurred on by Kelsey's tweet earlier today at the Philadelphia Fusion. So the Overwatch League has given us the two $20 million memes that are Boston Uprising and the Philadelphia Fusion. So my question to you guys is, are there any of the new teams right now that you're worried that are going to end up more meme than team at this point?
I mean...
Well, can you provide the context for the... Because a lot of people don't follow
wasn't
Overwatch.
Kelby give it? Kelby, can you provide the Overwatch League context from today?
Oh, God, yes. So, Travis, can you pull up the Philadelphia Fusion Twitter on stream?
Okay.
Let's just roast Philadelphia
Let me
Fusion
see. Let me see if I
stream.
can.
Which, by the way, you also have to pull up their "This is how we do it in Philly" video.
That's been
They took
taken
it
down
down.
apparently.
Oh,
They removed it. Yeah.
that was a masterpiece. Does
Yeah.
no
It
one
was
have
really
that
good.
archived?
Oh,
I'm
man.
sure it's somewhere.
So this is especially great because I work with Comcast, who owns the Philadelphia Fusion on the Evil Geniuses sponsorship, but the team I work with is on a different team than like the group that does this thing. Oh man, we have great conversations about it. It's so much fun.
Okay.
But anyway, so are you?
I'm
so
pulling
the-
up. It's coming up in a second.
Yeah. So do you see their tweet if you scroll down a little bit? That's them Yeah, scroll down. It's them encouraging people to tweet their best meme at them. You gotta scroll down a little bit further. Sorry.
Oh, I thought we
I
were
think
talking
it got
about the
deleted,
player
right?
logistics.
No, I don't know. Keep going.
Oh,
Yeah,
think you
that
can
one right there.
Okay.
So, think you can out meme our new meme specialist? Follow us, retweet this, and reply with your favorite meme, and you might win a pair of tickets. Are you up to the challenge? First off, this isn't a meme, it's a fucking GIF. All right. So, like, I just hate how the term meme gets especially overused. And it also just reads, like, so horribly, like that really great actual meme, which is the gif of the guy, and he's like, "Hey kids, what's up? You know, you fellow kids." And it's just like it's so millennial, like marketing speak. It pains me so bad to see it. So yeah, I have zero confidence in this org and what they're doing so far.
And
I think
this is not their first misstep either.
Yeah, I think this isn't the big
not
thing
even close.
from even today, because this was a team that put out a horrible video that was clearly done by some marketing agency who doesn't understand esports.
Yeah.
Then one of their players got in trouble for something, I'm pretty sure. Then there was that meme thing, I guess. And then today, when the preseason is supposed to be starting soon, and I'm pretty sure Overwatch League requires everyone to participate in the preseason, they can't field their roster due to logistical issues.
Yeah.
$20 million buy-in. Can't get ready for preseason.
Which, by the way, the tickets they were giving away in the tweet are now to an event they will not be attending.
Oh my god, so
Oh, but to answer your question, no, I have complete confidence in every team that's been franchised in the NALCS. I think they're all great, and there's no way that any of them will do a bad job.
Kelby, your voice is 100% dead.
Yeah. I mean, I do not worry that anyone is going to fuck up as bad as these Philadelphia Fusion people, because I do think that Riot, first off, there's 4 new teams there compared to all the teams that, like, every team is brand new to Overwatch League, so even your chances of it being far less. And then also just from interviewing the new teams, I feel like these guys, like, one of them is run by our friend Hunter, who used to work at Riot. Another one has Probably attached to it, and he's going to stop Nadeshot from doing anything crazy, hopefully. And even then, Nadeshot's been around on the internet. Like, he's not going to, I think, mess up. And then, what else? Optic has got Romain, who was already in the EULCS previously, and it's Optic, also an endemic esports org. And then, who am I forgetting? Clutch. Clutch has got Sebastian, who's been around forever. So these guys have all hired, they're all being run by people that have been in esports for quite some time. And while they might make the occasional snafu, like, I think it's going to be more like, oh, this is an awkward video, not like, how do you do, fellow kids?
I think
welcome to the NALCS.
Yeah.
I think on the one hand, at least like LCS has been around, so you can ask people like, how do you do it? Even if you don't know what you're doing, you can at least be like, hey, people who have done this before. Whereas like Overwatch League is 100% new, but those guys don't even like have something to work with.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing that interested me when we had our call with Steve Aronset, he said that like one of the teams or some of these teams like couldn't even set up internet for NALCS teams couldn't set up internet in their gaming house because it was something like they weren't familiar with. So I think there's some potential for some of these newer teams to be like a little bit shaky. I don't know how much he was joking when he said that.
Yeah, I continue to question that statement because none of the teams had gaming houses at the time. I think Steve was just blasting them, but I don't know. I don't think any of them are going to be that shaky.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are going to miss showing up for work.
Yeah. FlyQuest does have to prove it to me, though. They're my favorite team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
God,
like
they have to prove it
they're
to me.
kind of cringy video. We know, the fans know what they want, so we're going to bring it to them. Just shots of Wild Turtle over and over and over and over again.
Are you?
I mean, it's all about the smile, man.
Yeah.
That's the smile that's going to sell jerseys.
Yeah.
All right, how about this? We each pick one team that we think is going to flop it. Like just fuck it.
No, nobody's going to flop it. I think FlyQuest is
Well, I just
win
mean
at
like
risk.
relative to NALC. Like we're never going to be as bad as the like, Philadelphia team.
I would say FlyQuest too.
I'll say maybe Golden Guardians.
Wow.
Really?
I mean, like.
I know I'm biased because I'm friends with Hunter, but that's.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be like necessarily complete management side.
They've
but
got
like,
Rachel who worked with us at Yahoo.
I'm just saying I could go out there and see the team lay an egg and like fans turn on them and People are just like,
Oh.
why don't you have any fucking imports?
Like
Why don't you
they're
have
the new
this?
Team Liquid kind of deal where people are just kind of mocking them.
No, but I mean, like, at least Team Liquid, you could always see that they were trying, maybe too hard, and you're like, hey, do less, like, work with your team. But like, I could see a thing where Golden Guardians come out, they flop, Kirk gets back out there again. He's like, no, guys, we're building team and NA talent, and then the fans are just like, what are you even talking about? Your roster sucks and you have no imports.
Yeah.
So I could see
think
them.
there's something to be said for doing an all NA team, though. I
Well,
really
okay.
would like the story.
Separate
No, I
conversation.
like the story if it works.
Yeah, we should have somebody call in about that because otherwise we'll talk about that for another 15 minutes. Thank you so much,
All right.
D. Hornybrook, for calling in.
Appreciate it.
Say hi to Blizzard for us.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a meeting with them on Thursday.
Well,
Nice.
tell them I love Nate Anzer in Overwatch League.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, don't show them this VOD.
Okay. Next up.
Yeah,
I'm
good
sure
luck.
they're keenly aware.
yeah.
I mean, there's got to be internal conversations. You know Monty's attitude in general about these things, right? I'm sure that he's like throwing papers across the room, like, get this fucking guy on the phone. What is going on here?
Yeah. Thank you to Ducking Llama for subscribing and the Hippie Steve for the sub. Appreciate it. As we get Mark to pull the next person in.
Here he is.
Okay, Court CM. Is that how that's pronounced?
Courtseam is fine. It's probably
Court
easier to
CM.
pronounce.
Okay, well, you're capitalizing the M at the end of your name. It's very confusing me. Where are you calling from?
Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada. There's an Ontario near me, but that's not. It also has a CA at the end of it. Either way, first Canadian of the night. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I wrote in the chat about my thoughts on the 100T roster. I think their roster plus their coaching staff should be looking to contend for top 3 in the first split in the NALCS.
Okay. Well, this is great because I think, Kelby, it was you the other night that I said that I think some of these other teams could get in top 3, and you're like, no one's going to break top 3 except for the top 4 that everybody's talking about, right?
Yeah.
So you should argue with this guy.
Well, so why don't we hear why you think they're going to hit top 3?
Yeah, so it looks like now most of the rosters are pretty much finalized or, rumored to be finalized. Ironically, 100T is one of those rosters that isn't. So if we look at the current composition of what everyone is touting to be like, the current top 3, top 4, you've got TSM, which is changing out 3 players and their coach. You've got, I think the other ones, you've got TL, which is sort of like the super team, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we all know how good super teams have done in the past in NA and EU. Great stories there. And you've got, and I guess most people are putting in third, either C9 or CLG, right? So C9 and CLG already, you see they have some huge gaps that they're looking to sort of like fix over the next year. In CLG, you've got the jungle position. In C9, you've got, I don't know what they're doing with their top lane, something or other. On the other hand, 100 Thieves, you got to look at what they're bringing in. Just from what they've confirmed so far, you've got to look at what they're bringing in, okay? So Someday always kills it, okay? That's going to be a strong, consistent force in the top lane. You've got Ryu and Meteos, which most people are sort of saying are like the wild cards. In my opinion, you got to look at sort of their consistency over their playing careers. And, there's not many mid laners that you can say has been more consistent than Ryu, at least from most of his time in EU. And I think the real capper and the reason why I think they should definitely be contending for top 3 is their coaching staff, which is headed by Prolly. And from everything I've ever heard from Prolly or about Prolly, there's been nothing but good things to say.
I like how you said
everything
I've ever heard from Prolly or about Prolly, there's been nothing but good things to say. You're like talking to Prolly, and he just says he's the best coach ever.
No. I have never had any contact with Prolly. Okay. It's just I'm an avid Summoning Insight fan, so I've listened to Prolly talk a lot.
Okay.
All right. So, Kelby, you want to, because you're the 100T hater, right? Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
No, it's fine. Do we know who their ADC is supposed to be yet, or no?
No, let's go with the
Prolly
rumor
interview today said that he doesn't know yet, that they're actually still talking to people, etc. And I believe him based on conversations I had with them outside of that too.
Is there anybody good available?
Cody's son is the obvious situation.
Yeah, so why don't we just say Cody's son for discussion?
Sure. So I will agree with you on Someday. I think that Someday is probably top 3, maybe in the league as a top laner. I actually really believe in the potential of Meteos returning to form. I think that guy could be a really good jungler. I do not believe in Ryu, especially compared to all the other talent that exists in NA now. There are so many good mid laners in NA through Bjergsen, Jensen, Pobe, Power of Evil, who am I forget? Like Huni, like there's just
Who's the top
Huhi,
laner?
sorry, Huhi. There's just like there's so many, and Froggen. Oh my god, dude. There's
Frog is
I
not even in
But
the
Froggen's
LCS
not playing
supposedly.
for anything.
really.
Yeah, he didn't get picked up.
Jesus. All right,
It's
if
'cause
Froggen's
he's
not
Matt
even
Talk.
good enough to get picked
Yeah.
up, I just feel like there's so many
Feb
people
is another person.
that will outclass, and on bot lane, I don't know, dude.
So
Afro's gonna be paired with somebody new. It's really hard to put them in the top 3 for me.
Yes, who do you say Court Seam is not in the top 3? So the assumed
Yeah.
top 4 is TL, TSM, CLG, and Cloud9. So which 2 teams of those will not be in the top 3?
Okay, so there's a couple of things you want to look at when you're talking about this, right? So we've got to remember that and 100 Thieves, is also one of these rosters, but a lot of these rosters are going to be brand new, and we've seen in the past that in situations when there's a lot of new rosters mixing together, you're going to have unpredictable results. Okay, so in terms of the 3 rosters, I mean, so you're asking which of those 3 do I
4.
think is
Which of these 4? TL, TSM, CLG, Cloud9.
yeah,
Yeah.
who are they?
Two
who is
of them-
100 Thieves finishing over?
2 of
Who-
them
who
are
the
not
two
going to be
they're
in the
beating?
top 3 if you are saying that 100 Thieves will be.
right? So, and I'm assuming you mean playoff results, right? Not regular season.
Yeah, who do you think is going to go further?
Yeah.
Who are they better than?
Okay, so I think that out of those 4, the clear weaker ones we would say is Cloud9 and CLG, just because of the gaps that they're filling, and just on paper it doesn't look like they're filling those gaps very well. But to be honest, in my opinion, I think TL is the big question mark here. Just I don't like super teams, man, and
Well,
I don't like super teams.
the one downside of what you were suggesting is you were saying that most of these teams have not played together. You need to remember that TL 3 of these 5 have played together.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll chime in. I look at this roster and I look at what are they better at, because their bot lane, right? Afro and Cody Sun. That's just worse than the Immortals bot lane, because I think Ole's better than Afro. He was a borderline MVP candidate, right? And you're pairing him up with Cody, so I don't think they're better than the Immortals bot lane. I don't think Ryu and Meteos will perform great together. I think they were acceptable, and maybe Ryu gets back to like his more European level of performance. But even then, compared to Bjergsen, Jensen, and probably Pobelter, and even Huhi to an extent, I don't think he's better than any of those.
No,
and then Huhi.
I'm just kidding. That was
I know.
making fun of myself.
Yeah, I gotcha. Anyways, I just don't see where they have these clear advantages over the other top teams that you're supposedly talking about. I think, obviously top lane compared to Licorice, I'm like, yeah, I'm expecting him to get bodied hard. But at the same time, if Ryu doesn't pick his performance up because he was basically quitting in the middle of the season last year, he's going to get destroyed by Jensen. And I don't think their bot lane's better either. So, and Meteos is a big question mark, because the last time we saw him, he was playing like World of Warcraft just as much as he was playing League. And the reason he was so chill was because he didn't give a shit. And so how is this team going to function together? I believe in Prawley. I think he's a good coach, but they have a lot of question marks.
Yeah. Like
Either
if you
way.
look at the other 3 like teams that they have to move past, like I look at mid, like Mark was talking about, if you're comparing like apples to apples on them, like if you do mid bot lane comparisons for 100T versus C9 versus TSM versus TL, like I take all those other teams mid and bot lane combos over 100T every time.
Okay, so here's I guess where fundamentally I'm disagreeing. I'm not like going to try to argue like man for man that the players on 100T are better than their counterparts on Cloud9 or TSM, or actually not Cloud9, sorry, TSM or TL. Okay, because those are like the clear, like easy to see
Sure.
favorites. Okay, what I'm what I'm thinking about, and Mark is saying, so where's the advantage going to come from? And in my opinion, that advantage is going to come from the coaching staff. It's going to come from probably sort of having that game plan.
Prawley doesn't have an assistant coach yet. He has to we don't even know who else. So you have to really believe that Prawley can one man, or at least we'll be able to hire other people that can help him out. Because when you say the coaching staff, you're putting all your eggs in the Prawley basket at the moment.
Okay, sure. You know what? I can freely admit that I don't know enough about that kind of situation to say much about that. Yeah. I'm just saying that from what I've seen of Prawley in the past, what he's does for better or for worse to the H2K rosters that he's had full control of over all of these years. It's whether or not you want to say it's been a good thing or a bad thing, he's always put them on a consistent game plan. He's always had a very clear idea of how he wants his players to play the game. And, more often than not, his idea of how to play the game does seem to be an edge over his opponents.
That's fair.
So
that's fair.
I'll throw two things.
We should probably wrap soon on this topic.
Yeah. This is gonna be wrapping it. One, I can Cops in chat saying that he's free. So probably if you see this VOD,
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Feel free to hit Cop up. He's looking for.
He says Prawley won't follow him back. So if you're watching Prawley, you should follow Cop back so he can DM you.
Yeah. Second, there is a world where all these things work out, where like Meteos and Ryu step their game up, and their bot lane does fine, and they develop a very like CLG-esque kind of like play the map play style. Because I do think they have a lot of players who are smart and good at that, like Afro, Ryu, and Meteos. So I can see a world where they do overperform. I would just, if you asked me to make that bet, I would bet against it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Court Scene, for calling in. And the great news is that you'll have this as a record of proof if we all doubted you. And
you link this VOD in every Reddit thread.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot for having me.
Have a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
The only coaching staff I would not believe in is any coaching staff that is sending their team to Korea for 10 days before Christmas. That's the coaching staff I would not believe in.
Wait, is that public?
No, I don't know who's. I'm just saying in generalities, Kelby.
Okay.
I'm just saying in generalities. What do you mean is that public? Is somebody actually doing that, Kelby?
Oh my god, dude.
Right.
Wow.
So we got Oswald back. Mark, you got to pull something into the chat?
Yep.
Justin is calling us. Justin, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from LA.
Oh, hey, right here in our home, in the Travis Gafford Esports Studio hometown.
Koreatown, to be more specific.
Okay,
right,
yes.
I'll see you in a minute.
Yeah, the Travis Gafford Esports Studio is not that far away from there. All right. So, Justin, what do you got for us?
To be honest, I didn't really expect my hot take to be chosen, but basically what I said was I actually find AllStar to be super exciting for a viewer, from my perspective, and that this one should be the most watched in terms of like viewer-wise, is what I'm thinking.
What is different about this one that makes it so much more compelling to you?
At least for me, last year was in, I think, Rio, Brazil, and the production was super good. And people thought that when AllStar was moving back to LA that they found it as a downgrade. But for me, I feel like it makes it much more... Maybe I worded it wrong, because maybe it's not more like compelling, but at least for me, going to a smaller studio helps the audience become more, how do I say it, more...
Intimate?
Interested in watching, intimate. Because I've been to NA LCS studio before, and the audience is really close to the players. And for many, it's their first time being able to see these international players.
Yeah.
So you think that because AllStars has moved to a venue where the fans are closer in proximity to the players as they're playing their matches, it will get better viewership?
Maybe not better, because maybe I did word it wrong at the beginning. I do believe that people who are saying AllStar should be gone completely are out of their minds. I know Travis Gafford is not really excited for AllStar.
Travis is out of his mind. You heard it
You're
here.
out of your mind,
Listen here,
Travis.
Justin.
Travis, I don't know if
You
you're
said a
capable
lot of
of
stuff
hosting this
here.
show.
You said a lot of stuff here, Justin. You're a fellow Angelino. I appreciate
Yes.
that. You live in Koreatown. Hopefully not the sketchy part. But I'm gonna say this.
Absolutely
Like,
the sketchy part.
okay, well, I got nothing for you. Bishu got mugged there one time, so be careful.
Justin, are you going to AllStars? Do you think?
I want to buy tickets. Unfortunately, it's sold out 3 days after.
Man, Justin, wouldn't it have been great if it hadn't taken place at the NALCS studio and it would have been at like a theater or some bigger venue in the
more
LA area,
seating.
and you
So
could have
you could
actually
attend.
bought a ticket and watched it in person? Wouldn't
My
that have
God,
been fantastic?
What a beautiful scenario, but that's not the scenario, and I just, I still enjoy that All Stars is taking place at all.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I'm not okay. Listen, I do not think they should get rid of AllStar. I actually AllStar 2013 and maybe 2014 were some of my favorite League of Legends events ever. I just think that they have sort of they created MSI, which put AllStar in a really strange place, and now they don't know how to recover from it. And I do think it is very disappointing that you say this is such a serious event, and then you're holding it in the fucking NALCS studio, like where you hold regular matches all the time. And the fact that they described it as like, we figured out Rift Rivals can hold this stuff. Well, yes, you can hold anything in a studio. All right, you could create League of Legends World Finals could be in a studio. You can put like a tiny little AR dragon flying around in the rafters of the studio.
It's cute.
That doesn't mean that just because you can do it means that it's a good idea. If you want this to be a serious international event, put some fucking money behind it, both in the prize pool and in the venue, and actually it'll be quite cool. Now, I think it'll still be fun, but it's disappointing for Riot, the biggest esport on the heels of their franchise thing, to be holding this international event that they claim is serious and not have any money behind it.
Yeah, I was surprised about the venue change. I actually wasn't expecting it to come back to the NALCS, but I think you said yourself, like, as an international event, it should be getting the venue it kind of would deserve, because in League we don't have that much international events. Rift Rivals just got added this year, and all we had was MSI and Worlds, excluding All Stars. So that's kind of why I believe that I'm still excited for All Stars, despite the venue change, like you said, being a downgrade logistically, just because it is one of the few international events I get to watch besides MSI, Rift Rivals added this year, and Worlds.
And
so yeah.
And I actually don't hate the idea of having a more intimate feeling to it. I think that can sometimes actually come across well online.
Yeah, I just think that you can have that intimate feeling. Like, so in 2014, in the Busan stage for World Championships, they put it in a theater, and it actually was really, really cool the way they did it. And it had, it's a pretty big theater, but because it's got this theater setup, actually TI used to be in a theater, and it was the same thing. I think it feels a lot more intimate when you do it that way, because the state, everything is much closer, right? Like, you've got kind of the upper tiers that are coming in really close, and it is smaller, but I don't know. I just don't agree. Like, the last time AllStars was at the NALCS studio, you had players sitting outside in the rain.
Oh yeah.
So
for the 1v1s.
Yeah, I don't think that's very intimate.
Can I shout out to the greatest example of this that you'll love to hear, Travis?
Uh-oh.
Oh man, OGN back in the day in the studio with Doa and Monty. Let me tell you, I loved the setup that they had for OGN in Korea, and this is a thing that I complain about all the time to our group, is that one of the things that I super appreciated about OGN is that they mic'd the room really, really well, so that when people were cheering on OGN broadcasts, like, they use the size of the room and the noise that's created by the number of people to make it seem really loud. And I feel like it's so bad for NALCS, where all the time I'm watching streams and, like, you hear people cheering, and, like, you can very clearly hear this one dude, like, talking and, like, yelling out,
Free
like,
Tyler won!
Yeah, and then, like, 5 people laugh next to him, and, like, you can hear it. Like, it's just, it gives the impression that there's 15 people watching in the audience. Like, they do not do a good job, like, capturing the level of excitement in the room. And I don't know if it's the way that they're, capturing the audio or whatever in there, but man, feel like OGN did it so much better, dude.
I forget. You
The
remember
Kelly
when?
motto, by the way, is OGN did it so much better. In all
Dude,
things
it was definitely the golden era of League of Legends.
Do you,
all right?
do you remember? I think it was the ESL studio where they had that girl Zoe or something.
Yeah. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
I actually liked those. Like I felt
Yeah.
like that was a pretty intimate feeling as well.
For sure.
And
That's
I will
where
say,
Carmack did that interview with Doublelift that did super well when he like out of nowhere did that like crazy deep dive on his personal life and like leaving home and stuff like that. You remember?
I thought it was mediocre double lift interview. But
Yeah.
sure,
Oh my gosh.
oh, fucking Travis. I think AllStars is a little better this year, where like you have teams made up of multiple players and they're fighting. But I agree with Travis that like making it count for something a little bit more, not necessarily in terms of competitive integrity in the coming season, which is I think really dumb, but not having sizable prize pool and stuff is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question to the group?
Yeah, really quickly. This is before we move on.
Sure. Do you guys think that you can have a successful event if the players do not care?
Nope.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah,
You
because
do.
I think players didn't care about Rift Rivals, and that was semi-successful. I
Yeah, I would say
think
Rift Rivals was successful.
Yeah, I
I
think that's a
think-
good
Do you
point.
think that players did not care about Rift Rivals?
I felt like they did.
I
right?
don't know.
I mean,
think
talking to
I
them
think
ahead of
leading up
time,
to
they
it,
did
they
not
did
care about Rift Rivals.
Mm.
Maybe once
I think
they
when
got
they were
there,
there,
that
they wanted
changed.
to win.
Yeah, maybe once they got there, that changed. But like, I just do not think that they cared and as much, and I don't know. I think you can have a successful event. I just think you can have it be way more successful if they really care.
For sure.
Yep.
And I would agree with you.
Either way, thanks so much, Justin, for calling in. You
Oh,
should
no problem.
replace the battery in your smoke detector because it's definitely
Yeah.
beeping a lot.
Yeah, I didn't do that for a
Oh.
while either, but it's not too hard to do.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's okay. We're here to help you. Bye. All right.
Kelby, real quick, what are you drinking? I'm having rum and coke.
I am having ginger ale and whiskey. Sorry.
Ugh.
It took me a sec. You don't like? Oh, it's Seagram's and 7. You never done it before?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
I like gin and ginger ale. That's a combo.
I don't have a lot of gin. I have a lot of whiskey and rum right now.
Scooty
Anyways, look at
TV,
the next
thanks
guy.
for the sub. Mr. Henke, thanks for the sub. Attack of the Keys, thanks for the sub. We're going to go to our next caller in just a second, but first,
An ad
30-second ad break.
Yes! Whitelist this page.
We are back from the break with our next caller, the bravest one. How's it going, the bravest one?
He is literally the bravest person on all of Discord and Twitch right now.
Okay. Bravest, where are you calling from?
Hi, Travis. Long-time watcher, first-time caller.
Nice.
I'm calling from Des Moines, Iowa.
Ooh.
Beautiful Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
I think I
nice
drove
to
through
hear
there
from you.
when I came out to the West Coast.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What?
Nothing. It was stupid. Go on.
Yeah. What do you got? What do you want to talk to us about?
So, my thinking here is: does anyone else think that Thousand Thieves is turning into the Cowboys of the League of Legends, and Nate is going to be the Jerry Jones? He's going to take all the press conferences. He's going to talk about, how great all his players are, even when they're sucking up, and he's going to make all the excuses in the world if they have a bad series.
Well, so first off, there are 100 thieves, not 1,000. There's 900 less than you were saying.
There's no reason.
Yeah.
But secondly, so your question is Nade's sort of fame and being the frontman for this going to be is that like a bad thing, or are you just suggesting is that just the way it's going to be?
The Cowboys are America's team. I think that 100 Thieves would love to be America's team.
Well, I think that might have changed since the 90s. Despite their claims, it hasn't.
So, Bravest, are you suggesting it's bad if Nadeshot becomes sort of the face of the team and kind of outshines his players?
Yeah, it sounds like you don't like Jerry Jones.
No. Here's the thing. We're watching it for the players and to find the next superstars within the NA region that can possibly make it into Worlds and go farther. I don't want to see Nate be the face of NA when his players are doing all the work.
Okay, so here's something I can kind of agree with is I don't like, and this is maybe a little personal because I was a staff member once back in the day. I don't like when staff members make the team a little bit more about them than it feels like the players. And maybe
Kelby
did
did that at CLG. He was like,
I don't feel like he was quite
Kelby
that bad.
Logic Gaming right here. Yeah.
All right. Travis is just making a joke, but Mark, the fact that you even dignified him with a response that said, "I don't think Kelby was that bad," makes me think that you even thought that was a potential. Anyway.
No, I buzzed and I was like trying to move on from it. All right.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So like the two examples, or the one example I can think of really heavily is Romain, actually, the guy who just came over and joined Optic. I never liked how Unicorns of Love felt like they were more about him than the players, and that was like on full display with the ads that happened at their finals in summer, I believe it was, when he was like running around on the stage like being the hype guy, and he was in the ads, and it felt like he was as big of a personality as what should be players and things like that. And I'm fine with managers and coaches being important people. Like, I'm fine if people gave more hype to Zix, and like
and I wanted to see Unicorns of Love just get crushed every single week.
Yeah, so like I'm fine if like, you know, someone is a focus, like if probably is a small focus, but I have a problem when it feels like they're being pushed more so than others.
Well, how did you feel about Noah?
Yes, I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, no, that's a great example as well.
Because like there was not too much content around their players, but every week, and I always tease Noah about this, Noah would come out and be like, "Hello, my fellow Immortals fans.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about this, you know."
I love Noah's notes, dude. I just wait for Noah's notes with bated breath.
So, yeah, I think that's a great example of like an owner being a little bit too much more forward facing than the players. Whereas like,
now, is that because his players were not facing out enough, or was that because Noah? Like, I think I actually like what Noah did.
No, I think what Noah did was nice, but like players are naturally not looking to be in videos all the time, and you kind of need to push them in that way. And I think TSM and TL are great examples of that, where like their owners are in videos and you do see them doing interviews and they are a part of the team, but I don't feel like their content is pushing them more.
Yeah.
Whereas like they still have TSM Legends and they do a bunch of shit with that, and TL has a ton of content they do with their players. And I felt like for Immortals and Unicorns of Love, it was so much more about staff than players, which I don't think what should be driving esports necessarily. And I'm concerned, you know, the point that the bravest one is making, that Nadeshot will be the same way, where there's like, hey, it's another Nadeshot vlog, how's it going, team? Which I do appreciate that they're keeping it kind of humble and YouTube oriented. I think that they should obviously have content beyond that pushes the players a lot more.
Yeah. Conversely, sorry, Bravest, go ahead.
So, full disclosure, this is my first season of watching League of Legends esports, and I came in when Mike Young just first hit the scene, and I loved it. You know, I really got into the esports scenes because of that big play that he had around the Baron right before Rift Rivals, and I started watching, you know, Phoenix One, started watching his streams, and you know, he was he's somewhat of a humble guy with just watching his streams. Now I don't know how humble he'll be after TSM, but I like that it was like just watching the players come about, you know, see how their personalities are, see this arc of great plays. Whereas I don't really care about the owners. I really could care less.
Yeah, I kind of, my thing in it, you know, we should probably move on to another caller in a second just because I'd love to get some more in, but I would just say I also like that with some of these interviews and some of this content, the owners have been more out there, and it is already helping, I think, a lot of fans care about the new teams in a way that they didn't, because we didn't really see oftentimes the owners out there from the other teams. And so them kind of explaining the philosophy of how they're building their team and what their team stands for and all that stuff, I think is providing more context and helping to paint a broader picture, in my opinion.
And I would completely agree with you on that, Travis. It's
Great.
important to know the what's happening on the backside, but when the backside becomes the front side of the face of the entire team, where you look at the team and go, "Oh, that's Nate's team," or "Oh, that's Liquid's team." I don't really care as much about the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thanks, Bravest One. I think ending on you saying that you completely agree with me is the best way to do it. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Oh.
I really like that. You don't want the backside to become the front side.
Yeah. Mark, by the way, Damien's on the chat. I don't know if you want to try to... He wanted to come on at some point in time if you want to pull him.
I mean, if you want to drag him right now about the content thing, he's probably a good
Does
guy
he want to talk about
about
a content thing?
Is Damien, are you in Discord? What's your name?
It's Damien Star. I put him in the waiting room. Either way, we're up for our next guest. And before we pull him in, I just want to say thank you to Indusfree and Austin for the Patreon pledges. I don't know why that's not going through Streamlabs, but either way, who's next?
You know him. You might love him or you might hate him.
Calling straight from Twitter. How's it going?
Banned off
dude.
Twitter.
Yeah, that's my location. Everyone's from Irvine or LA. I'm from Twitter.
Yeah. Have you has anybody ever heard your voice or anything before?
I haven't.
A couple people. I don't know.
But like, have you ever been on a show, or have you been? Is this like the first time people are publicly hearing?
I've been on a show with Richard Lewis.
Well, Risen Lazarus, for those that don't know.
Extraordinaire.
Risen Lazarus, for those that don't know, is a basically a Twitter troll. I think is his role.
Well, he started on Reddit.
Yeah.
He was a big Reddit CLG fanboy to the point where people wanted to start following his Twitter for some reason.
I've known Risen Lazarus since way back in the day, before he blew up, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember back when
because I was running fucking CLG.
Yeah, he was just a shitposter CLG fan on Reddit, right?
Yeah. And that's really what he still is. Either way, Risen Lazarus, where are you actually calling from? Are you able to disclose that?
What the fuck? It's not a... Actually, I guess I should... I'm from DC.
Okay.
Basically.
From DC. Okay.
Cool.
Aren't you like a lawyer or something?
More or less.
Okay.
Are you the one who's
I think
ruining
probably
America
less.
right now?
What is more or less? Did you pass the bar or not?
Yeah, I passed.
It's much like Chris Padawi, more or less a lawyer.
Oh my God.
Holy shit! Travis is with the hot takes tonight, man.
Lazarus, what do you want to talk about?
Another show is called Hotline League, but last week we got pretty deep into non-league stuff because Nick was on.
Yeah.
How far off of league are we allowed to go, or am I allowed to go?
I mean, I don't just say it, and if we need to get you
All
back.
right, I'm just sort of wondering what Kelby especially thinks, and Matt's in chat, so Matt can mention anything he wants to too, but about what's going on with CLG and dropping the CSGO team, and in the same report, DK kind of hinting that there's evidence that he knows of that Devin's on his way out too. Because I think everyone... Devin Nash, Malexia, right?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, CEO of CLG. I think a lot of people thought that when MSG came on board, fans are simpletons, so they just see a big company, they think money, and they think, okay, that's going to solve X, Y, and Z problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it didn't, especially for the CSGO team. I'm wondering what you think and if it sort of means anything, because now CLG as a team seems pretty pigeonholed into the LCS team, and
right, they don't have a lot of game diversity in tier 1 titles outside of
so
League.
I'm wondering what you think, since we were in those ropes, and so was Matt.
How you want to answer this, Kelby? If not, I can come up with some answers. But I
no, that's fine. I'm not going to talk about the Devin situation. I don't think Travis is either, because obviously we know Nick, and I don't know.
I'll be the idiot who speaks up on that one.
Yeah, sure, for sure. But so
I'll talk about it.
I think that Lazarus, you bring up a really good point, right? Because, and it's probably something, because I see you on Twitter all the time, that you've seen at least me talk about, is that I think that what's really important in evaluating the space right now is not, previously it was, where is the money coming from? So if you're valuing sponsor money that's put into the scene, what do they want? And then you're building your organization to meet their needs to some degree, right? Because they're the ones who are funding the project. Now, with an organization like MSG, and so many of these orgs are VC-backed, what's really important and less transparent to the general audience, because with sponsors, it's like pretty cut and dry. You don't need to know the objective, but they care about engagement and exposure, right? So the more popular scenes they want teams to be involved in, because they provide them more exposure. And then it's just a value assessment there in regards to how much are you paying for how much exposure is the game providing. with these different VC orgs that are getting involved, you don't know who is getting involved and for what reasons. I've had a lot of, I have a lot of different talks with different owners about stuff, and like every org that's backing these teams financially now seems to be invested into the space for a different reason. Some are running more traditional sports models. Some are looking to make profits at different points in time. Some aren't worried about profits. Some are running like event companies behind all of this. So ultimately, it's probably something where, and I mean, Travis and I, and we all know Nick, and Nick is a really smart guy. It's probably a situation where they looked at it, and you look at CSGO, and if you look at NA CSGO in particular, and the CSGO scene at large, like CSGO salaries, and I don't know how connected or much you follow CSGO, Risen, but like salaries across that game have blown up tremendously. And I think in regards to profitability, per division, CSGO is probably the worst tier 1 esports game. Especially because on return, primarily you're looking at sponsorship revenue, and so many sponsors have an aversion right now to Red Blood games, which CSGO is the king of, and the whole terrorist, counter-terrorist factor, especially with all the terrorism acts that happened in Europe over the last year, and the fact that most of the talent in CSGO is coming from Europe, makes this game really, really hard to generate revenue off of. So if you are evaluating the CSGO space at all from a profitability standpoint, it makes it a difficult game to be involved in, especially considering all the North American CS talent is wrapped up right now.
All right. Now that everyone else is woken up.
The ad-lib version is Madison Square Garden came in. They don't like CSGO because it doesn't turn enough for profit. Goodbye. Bye.
I don't know about that. Maybe.
That's
but
the
CSGO is
idiot.
pretty hard to be in right now, I think, from a cost thing. There's two things that I'll say on this before I throw it over to Mark. And I know Risen Lazarus didn't ask me this question, but it's on my Twitch channel, so I'm taking it.
That's all you.
Yeah. So one is, Risen Lazarus, by the way, is referencing a article that came out from DK, who mostly works in the CSGO space, that has said that he knew that CLG was dropping their CSGO team, and then it got announced. And then the other thing is he recently hinted that Melixia, who people will know ran CLG before MSG came in and has still had like a leadership position, to my knowledge, is possibly on his way out. I don't think that should be that shocking to anybody. If you are Melixia, you probably have a lot of different things you can do in the space right now, because there are a few people that have been around for as long as he has and have the experience he has. So there's all these new orgs coming in across CSGO, Overwatch and League of Legends, and even others that are trying to get in space. If you help this company get sold or whatever, maybe now there's opportunities for you to go do other stuff elsewhere. I think we'll probably see a lot of stuff changing over time, and I'm not surprised to see something like that potentially happen.
Yeah.
Nope,
you go
Mark?
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, if you want some juicier drama gossip stuff, I've heard from like random people in the scene at various points in time that there's always been like weird stuff with Melixia. And I don't have specifics, just like his time on Dignitas as well as coming over to CLG early on. Some people didn't.
We just got a feud started.
I'm just saying he rubbed some people the wrong way, and that was something that happened. I don't know how good or bad he was. Obviously, he was decent, at least, because CLG, I think, trended up during his time, I believe. But who knows? Maybe someone at Madison Square Garden didn't like him. Yeah. That's the juicy stuff.
I mean, but
that's probably
the only reason I would caution that line of thought process is that everyone assumes that he's being forced out, and I think that there's just as likely of a chance, if not more likely, that like a talented individual. Listen, I know I've been unemployed for 6 months. But for people that aren't me, everybody's getting offers all the time to go work elsewhere, and people are trying to pull people other places. Who knows what is on Devin's plate and what opportunities are out there. Thanks to Volks LOL for the sub. Either way, Risen Lazarus, you got anything else for us?
Just as an aside, Kelby, you raised a point or idea earlier of what if Riot put in some sort of restriction for players who haven't played pro yet, give them until the end of the season. The one concern, or there's a few concerns, but the one major one I have is that that might not be legal. And this actually goes to the draft in general. Somebody pinged me on Twitter when the draft was announced and also when it started saying, hey, don't players in sports have to be in a union and under a CBA to do a player draft? And my first thought was, that doesn't sound right. But if it was right, it probably doesn't apply here because we're not talking about the same thing. You can just be a free agent. Riot didn't say, hey, if you want to play League, come to the scouting grounds. You can just not do it. And I think like 3 players passed up on it.
Yeah.
But regarding your specific idea of giving them a year, there's a few cases where the NBA used to have a 4-year rule. You had to be out of high school for at least 4 years. Someone sued them. They lost that, so now it's I think it's 19. Yeah. And the NFL had a similar case. They won that, so it's not like a hard and fast, but you could have issues there. But that's basically it.
Either way, thanks so much, Lazarus, for coming
Bring
on
on
the
the 16-year-olds.
Oh boy.
What? All right. Who we got next, Mark?
I'm just drag Damien up right away.
All right. You're just gonna assume his audio stuff works?
No, I'm just gonna assume he works in production. So if he comes in here and there's an echo, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah. Audio's never been his forte in my experience. Hello, Damien. Damien, where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hi. Where are you calling from? Damien?
Am I here?
Yes.
Yeah, you are live right now.
Can
Yes.
you hear us?
Damien Estrada's on the show, Hotline League. Everyone can hear him, including us. And we're excited to find out what Damien wants to talk about.
I mean, you guys kind of talked about it all, so I'm just kind of here. What do you guys want to talk about?
All right.
That's not how this
Damien,
works.
come up with something, otherwise I'm kicking you out.
Well, no, I really wanted to talk about how people like Cop and Saint don't have jobs right now. Why not?
Why don't Cop and Saint have jobs? I don't know. Why don't...
Yeah, you give us the hot take.
I don't know. I'm lost, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know.
I blame Travis because he was the one who put you in the waiting room.
Actually, hold on. Here's a hot take. Travis Gafford has been killing it with this content. He's interviewed like basically everyone in the league. How is he doing it? What's your method, dude?
Damien, can I ask you a serious question?
Yeah, go for it.
Since we've got you here. So, now that you've got all these franchise teams involved, one of the things...
By the way, we should explain who Damien is.
Yeah, Damien runs 1UP at Team Liquid, which is the organization that produces all their content.
He was there.
Is that fair to say?
He's the creator of Breaking Point.
No, better point. He was the one who did Rebirth at first, which caused every fucking team in the league to be like, why don't we stick some cameras behind our players and put out some content like that?
Yeah.
H2 What, TSM Legends, all that shit came after Damien did Rebirth.
Okay, so
Damien,
the question.
So now you guys have been, I would say, at the forefront in regards to doing content, as Mark noted, in regards to Rebirth and then Breaking Point, a full feature thing. As we know, a lot of that stuff is gated by budget. Now that we have these other teams that are involved in the space, what are you worried that somebody else is going to get budget to do on the content side before you get to do it?
Nothing. I'm confident.
Is that
then
what are
you going to do that's going to level up the space on the content side?
If I say it here, then everyone's going to know, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. A scoop, an exclusive.
Give
me some teasers. Give me something to get excited about as a fan.
I really feel like we're not going to be competing with other teams. We're going to be competing with Riot on content.
Nice. So here's a question for you, kind of as a follow-up to Kelby. So many shows or so many teams have shows that are just based around here's our team's week, and they do it at different points in time. Sometimes, I think Immortals had one at Worlds, TSM has TSM Legends, Cloud9 had one. Do you think that that's that'll just keep going on? Do you think that it's passé now from the content side? Do you think if Optic is getting in, should they do that show for their team? What are your kind of thoughts on that format?
I think the format is in a really weird place, right? I think a lot of teams tried to do it last year, and I think a lot of teams kind of missed, including ourselves. We didn't really do a great job, although there wasn't really much to talk about for a lot of last year. And
everyone was talking about Team Liquid last year.
Yeah, but not in the way that you want to talk about on a weekly basis,
I love talking about it on a weekly basis.
We lost again.
Yeah.
and so, optimistically, if we're talking about the the create and grind sort of like week in and week out. I assume that this year is going to be a little bit better. I think the roster's like pretty legit. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of format experimenting that we're going to do this year. And someone was telling me the other day that the real off-season sort of super team is actually 1UP and not our LCS roster.
Okay.
So
what
I was
is
gonna
how many
ask,
more goodbye videos do you have to do?
I think like 3 or 4. The hustle is real, dude.
Yeah.
we were talking earlier about producing content around players versus staff. I don't know if were you there for that conversation we were having?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of opinions about that.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
It's a confusing space, right? Because like you want people to be fans of an org, and in order to be fans of an org, they have to have like a personality that they lash themselves onto, right? Most orgs obviously don't swap out rosters frequently, or it's only like a couple players that do. And so last year was a little confusing on like what players to really kind of latch onto. And for me, it's kind of been like that Piglet character. But now he's gone. So, you know, it's like lucky we have great players.
Has it been announced that he's gone?
I mean, he's a free agent. Haven't you seen all over the internet?
No.
Yeah.
You guys haven't put out a goodbye video yet. Nobody actually officially leaves Team Liquid until they've had a goodbye video.
You got to save the best for last, dude.
Okay.
And
is Golden Glue last?
And you know,
that's my point.
Oh shit!
You guys are trolls. Golden Glue is a great kid. We're finishing that video right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think you need like a character to latch onto, or like a personality, or like someone in the team. Like, who's that one coach that you like, Mark? The Belichick dude.
Oh, you mean in real life? Yeah, Bill Belichick.
Yeah. Right. So you love that team because of him. So I think the league needs more of those characters. They need more Bill Belichick's like in the space.
And people who record other people's practices.
Oh, people who are the winningest coach of all time and have a great philosophy that leads their team to victory time after time, Kelby.
There's the Kelby laugh.
I'm just making a joke.
Yeah, I know.
I think for TSM, you know, like they have Bjergsen and they have Reggie. Like those are two like static personalities in that org. Yeah. And I think more orgs need people like that. I think it's kind of hard.
You mean static in regards to like they're there and you can count on them for content creation, not like they're like boring people, right?
Like they're there, you could count on them, you follow them, you care about them, and that's kind of like what I like about the Nadeshot thing is that, you know, like sure, maybe you don't want it to be the Nadeshot show, and maybe it won't be once they get the players in the house and they start doing content, but like him as a constant I think is important in the beginning at least.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Damien. Thanks for leaking all that sick Team Liquid information, and hope to have you on again in the future.
Hey, thanks, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, who do we got next?
I'll hop down and grab someone.
How you doing, Kelby?
I'm doing great. Why do you think I'm not doing great? I got to talk about another esports game and go on a long rant that put everybody to sleep. I'm all about it. Nice. Lazarus had a good question, though.
Let's see. Okay, Mark's back, so we should have a moment. And here's Davidson. Davidson, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Sweden.
Sweden! Woohoo! What time is it there?
It's early. 6:30.
6:30. Okay.
No better way to start your day.
Have you gone to sleep yet, or have you woken up?
Yeah, I actually woke up from the message from my iPhone that this show was live.
Hey, that's
what do you think about the new Alliance roster?
Wait, what?
Exactly.
I didn't even
Sorry, good answer, Davidson. Yeah. All right, so for everyone else, be like Davidson. Set notifications for this channel. Let it wake you up the moment that I go live. He knows what's up. Davidson, what do you want to talk to us about?
I just want to talk about the scouting ground situation in EU and how it can transfer to the NA scouting ground.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Do you know
I love bringing over EU talent. Tell me how we can get you more.
So, do you know how the NHL does it?
No.
With like the drafting, the National Hockey League just gets a first take on every talent in like Sweden, Russia, etc.
Okay.
in Finland. So they just drafted young upcoming players for like free, and just set them on a contract and just scout. So it's kind of just an talent growth in NA.
So wait,
Uh,
sorry.
Citizens.
So you're
So we
saying
could
that the NHL just has access to all the other regions, and they just will draft players out of those regions.
Well, so
Yeah.
the way it works in NBA, which I assume is similar, is like you can just draft anyone in the world, and that just gives you like NBA explicit exclusive rights. Like you can't, say like, oh, you can't compete in your Turkish league because we drafted a Turkish player. But if you try and come to the NBA, they have your rights. And so I think that's what you're saying is the same thing in the NHL, right? Like an NHL team can draft anybody in the world, and then they have the rights to them for the NHL.
Yeah, because I don't think that Europe will ever become like a like world contender region region because it's like splitting up once more. I think we should just bet on NA. It's a great culture as well. So
Wait,
This guy is
wait.
so
So okay,
smart.
just to be clear, you are suggesting that EU just becomes NA's scouting ground.
yeah.
Oh my
What?
god.
They just shut down this year's scouting ground.
Thank
I'm a high elo player, and I wanted some scouting ground
And
news.
and you
Yeah.
So
are
you want to be, as an EU ladder player, be able to be scouted at the NA scouting grounds, is what you're saying.
And then he
Yeah.
counts as a domestic player, I think, which is only
Yeah.
fair. If you're coming to compete at NA scouting grounds, then you don't take up an import slot. You just have to
We
declare.
need 2 continents to beat
Yes. Yeah. He's a
David
thinker.
said you have
I
my
like
Twitch
this
chat
guy.
has never moved this quickly. You are definitely the most interesting caller. And you're actually from Sweden, to be clear. You're actually an EU citizen.
Listen
right now.
to him.
Yes.
Can't you hear my accent? Hello?
I mean, I do
Yeah.
hear your accent. I just maybe you're a very talented accent person.
Where are you at in Sweden? If I can.
Gothenburg.
That little shithole underneath Jönköping.
Oh,
Okay.
you're near
Did you
Jönköping.
go to
You
drink
really
there?
are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I went to the season 1.
Okay, so Davidson, are you more of an NA fan or an EU fan? Like, do you watch any LCS or EU LCS or what's your mix?
I only watch my homeboy Rickless
Okay.
in the EU
Okay.
LCS. That's the
Okay.
only thing I watch.
Okay. So,
But you like NA
Yeah,
more
I love
as a
NA.
region? But you don't watch NA?
Yeah, I watch NA.
Oh,
No,
you
he's saying of European teams, he only watches.
oh.
would you have?
okay.
Did you want during the off season? Did you want Reckless to come to NA?
Dude, I would be so happy if Aframo Rickless.
I agree.
Like,
I
who
agree.
cares if he lives in Germany or in fucking USA? If he gets more paid, I'm more happy for him as well. So
Can I ask what you like more about NA versus EU in regards to the orgs and how they do things?
the
Or the
thing is
players
that
or whatever?
NA is just more like USA. The marketplace is just so set in stone. Like, you know what you can get from it, you know how you get it from it. So it's more stable. EU is just a fucking shithole with 50 different countries and yeah.
So let me
My
ask
favorite
you,
caller, dude, ever.
have you seen the Copenhagen Flames tweets about how they're doing their like own scouting grounds?
Yeah, I actually played in some Danish. It's so weird now because they talked about splitting up the EU,
Yeah.
the EU LCS. Then they was like, "Oh, we know what we can do. We can take every country and make it an individual like CS, like the fucking EU CS for every country, and we take every country's best teams and just put them in the qualifiers."
Would you have liked that system?
I guess it's good for some like new players. Like there are some D1 players and like low master players that's really good at the game, have really good like macro sense. So it could bring them up more. I guess that's pretty good.
So, excuse me. The other question I wanted to ask you, Davidson. So, okay, I'm gonna publish this video. Probably, I'll just clip it out, put it on my YouTube. I usually put it on right after the show, but all of Europe will be waking up, so it's not a safe time. So I'll probably post it.
Oh, that's
at, like,
the perfect
at,
time.
like,
to
1 or 2
figure
tomorrow.
the shit out of Europe.
No, they'll downvote it and people will hate me. But I'll probably post it at like 1 or 2 tomorrow, whenever it's safe to post it. But all the EU fans that do watch this will be like, yeah, but EU always outperforms NA at Worlds, EU greater than ANA, et cetera, et cetera. So why don't you sort of share that mentality of like, who cares about NA? They have the money, and then their players will underperform, or they'll bring over our talent, and then they'll suck.
Okay, I'm not talking about like I don't have a bias against NA because I feel like the Western culture in the LoL is one culture. I think it's bad to see us as two different entities because we have the player base, we have a much bigger player base. So why don't we take our forces together?
Yeah.
To create a better league.
I mean, you did say that it's bad to view them as two separate things, and then you also said EU is a shithole. So I'm kind of, I will.
Yeah, no. I'm just talking about the infrastructure in
Right.
EU.
Right. So
Okay.
the
Davidson,
idea
we're
is
on the
like
same page here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
EU
yeah.
better players, better like area for like players play in, but NA has much better infrastructure and income. So EU, you become a great player, and then once you've become great enough, NA takes you.
Yeah.
Davidson, I
That's how it
love the
works right
idea
now.
that you just woke up this morning, rolled over, started watching the show, and then you're like I'm going to be a traitor to my entire region, and call
Damn,
into
I
the
have to
tournament.
change my alias now.
Do you follow Smash?
No.
I was gonna say Leffen. He's Swedish. He's on TSM. Comes to North America all the time to play. It's the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Davidson, thank you so much. I hope you call again in the future.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you on again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Davidson.
Yeah, have a good one, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
To be clear, though, I personally don't view Davidson as a traitor. I think that Europe should take a lot of pride in the fact that they have this really big task set in front of them, which is developing talent for the superior region. You know, it's not easy to make these guys into the great players that they are so that they can be sent off to the, to the region where they can get fame and money that they deserve for their skills, like they deserve a lot of credit for building these guys up for North America.
Yeah. I think it's funny, all the EU people always message me whenever we do the show because it's so late and they are upset that it's like so early in the morning. I always think it's an NA show, whatever. So then like EU person calls in and I'm like, my first reaction is like, oh man, like he's going to be like, why don't you do the show earlier? Or like, let's talk about something EU related. Instead, no, he's just like, EU is a shithole, NA for life.
He literally
I wish Reckless would come to NA. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he's a really enlightened, probably one of the most enlightened guests we've had.
All right, next guest.
Hello.
Are you? What? You're still on this channel?
Oh, I left and I came back.
Okay. Hello, Koj. Where are you
Hey,
calling
how's it
from?
going?
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Huntington, Indiana.
Okay.
Cool.
Very good. And what do you want to talk to us today about?
So I was going to talk about the our game video that came out.
Oh yeah, I think Mark really wanted to talk about that. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I've been following the scene since about preseason 2. So I definitely was on that side of like, oh man, esports, dude, it's totally sport. But now that the scene's matured, it's like, who gives a crap like if it's considered esports or not? Like the infrastructure is set up, everyone knows that it's a real deal. And I mean, you got like Colin Coward, and those types of people are the ones that are like making a scene about get off my lawn, you stupid esports nerds. So I just think that while the video was cool and it was like a nice kind of homage to the struggle, I guess, I think it's a little bit like late to show because we're already at the point where like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I have a couple feelings on this. One is I definitely agree with that sentiment. But I also think it's probably really nice for people to have some people have parents and they're like, why did you lose your job at Yahoo? Why don't you get a real job? Why do you work in this esports thing? You should have become like a doctor like your grandfather. And it's just nice to have... I'm just kidding.
Can you imagine Travis operating on you?
Oh, God.
Cutting you open?
I 100% agree that this is a great video. I just think it was 3 years too late.
Yeah.
Like, this should have came out after the 2014 Worlds, and you get fucking Imagine Dragons and everyone losing their shit in the Korean Stadium and all that stuff, and you make the same video then. And there was probably a couple fewer sound bites that than you had nowadays, where you can get all the TNT NBA guys and and this and that. But I think there was still enough conversation going on about it back then. So I
Yeah.
agree. At this point, everyone who's been following esports for more than like 2 or 3 years is kind of like, I don't care what they call us. We're clearly big and legitimized.
But did you
Versus
guys, when you watched that, and I'm not saying that this was me, but a lot of people said it was so nice to have to watch this video because it resonated so much with me. You know, the idea, like, this is the identity of esports, and like the idea that this is so much more than some people think it is, and setting aside like the sport, is it a sport thing, more like the let's celebrate it. And even like Thorn was going in on it on Twitter by being like, why are they using E-League stuff to promote it?
That was just ridiculous on its
Yeah,
own.
But I thought it was actually really cool that this was not just limited to League of Legends. Riot has historically only focused so much of their conversation. They talk less about League of Legends and more, or sorry, they talk less about esports and more about LOL esports, if that makes sense. And so I just thought it was kind of neat that there was this kind of inclusive video that came out for that kind of stuff.
I really liked the video, and I don't think this video will be late for decades, honestly. Like, it may be that we all in here, especially endemic to the scene, you know, we've been around esports since, you know, what, 2010 or something like that for most of us, and following on a dedicated basis. And like, you know, you said, you know, you've been following since preseason 2. So yeah, it's not something where like, I don't give a shit what Colin Cowherd says. I totally feel that, but the reality of the situation is that all of this stuff that we love is funded by people, and in order for it to continue to grow and get bigger, it needs to get more traction and more visibility into a greater like section of the mainstream market. And this will always be a conversation until, you know, people like this stop saying things like this, which will take, I think, generations.
It makes sense. Kelby's like the sales guy in this. He talks to sponsors all the time. It makes sense, and I don't see this even to mock. Like, I would not have thought of this because I'm not in his position, but you can show that to sponsors that you are pitching.
Yep.
And you can say, because, you know, you'll walk in, I've heard this from multiple people, you walk in sometimes to companies and some marketing guy has heard about esports, or there's like a junior level marketing guy that's trying to convince a chief marketing officer at a company that has a big budget to invest some money into this thing, and they think esports is like World of Warcraft and what is that, like those mobile games that are, you know, Flappy Bird
Clash
and
of
shit
Clans.
like like they literally are so out of touch with the idea, and they'll call it e-gaming, and they'll say, so e-gamers are really into this. There's such a disconnect there. So being able to walk into that room and say like, hey, listen, you know, you have the sports budget that you spend on XYZ. Here's a video that we kind of think demonstrates some of why this is valuable.
Yeah.
So I will have two sides. One, you're 100% right, Kelby and Travis, that like this is great for showing to people outside the loop and trying to get them in there. And that's inarguable. However, there's a part of me who's been a gamer my whole life who kind of has this kind of like fuck 'em mentality, where I'm like, yeah, I don't care if Colin Cowherd never gets on esports. I understand that like if you can loop him in, that's great, but like I'm a do me, and like esports is doing great, and we just had a ton of buy-in from NBA officials, and like I feel 100% legitimized in esports. Where like if you don't get it at this point, that's fine. And so that part of me is like, I don't want people who don't get it to be shown that like there's money in this, so come and exploit us for money. And I'm like, people who get it, please come join us. And that part of me is kind of like, you know. And,
I totally agree with Mark there. Like, I also like the tweet Darshan had about how like the scene has shaped him, and the fact that he doesn't really care what it's called either. Just at a point where it's like, it's whatever then. Either you're with the scene or you're not.
And like I said, I agree. Like I want more money in the scene so we can all make more money and esports becomes more legitimate. And like I'm torn on this issue because I have that side of me, and then there's the side that's like, yo, let's stay real with the people who get it. Like I don't want some dickhead at ESPN coming in and being like, I'm about esports now because there's enough money in it that I'm paid to talk about it. Like fuck that guy. And I'm torn on that issue.
But that's what every team that bought in is banking on, just so we realize. And we are on the exploitation route. It is
Yeah.
going to head that direction. It will become ever more prevalent in what we consume. So
Yep.
I'm just trying to make sure that when they do it in an authentic way, and it is additive for me as a fan, so that it's not, like the shit that we see with Philadelphia Fusion, where it's, marketing to kids. It's somebody utilizing that budget to create content for me as a fan and get branding around it that I actually care about.
Right, and that's why, to go back to Clutch Gaming, as much as I kind of lampooned, like, analytics are great, yada, 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 like, I think that, like, Daryl Morey and that team clearly cares about esports.
Yeah.
Whether or not, like, their approach will be 100% successful, they're at least, like, committed to it. They care about it.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, thank you so much, Koj. By the way, Mark, I put something in the Skype chat. Thanks so much
thank you.
for calling in, Koj. I really appreciate the call.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, good callers tonight.
Yeah, I like these topics.
If you are a sub, by the way, please join the sub voice channel, and then please, whenever you're writing something in this chat that you want to talk about, mention
let
that you're a
me
sub.
know some way, because there's so many people like spamming as Oswald, and like I'm trying to talk and do all this stuff that I have a hard time noticing who's a sub or not.
Yeah.
So
if you write sub and then we see you in the subs voice chat, we'll try and grab you in. We'll try and grab. We got a couple calls left, but
is there a subs?
try and grab
There
those.
is a subs chat as well. I can do a better job popping between the general chat and subs chat to see
Yeah.
who's typing in there.
Because we do try to make sure that we grab at least a couple subs every show, because there are a lot of people spamming questions.
Yeah, so if you're a sub and you want to get on the show, type in the subs chat right now. I'll go pop in and read that for a minute. Anyways, I'll grab another caller.
Speaking of subs, I think we talked about Scooty Tootie already for subbing. I know we talked about folks. Diarrhea Butt 69 subbed 21 minutes ago. So thank you to them. And then Diarrhea Butt donated $100.
Damn.
So thank you, Diarrhea Butt 69. I have mixed feelings about your support for the show, because while I really appreciate the funding assistance, your brand is at odds, I think, with what we try to go for here. Control 6, join the show.
yeah.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Seattle.
Oh, nice. How's Seattle?
It's kind of cold, kind of shitty weather.
I'm sorry.
Where are you at in Seattle, Control 6? I'm from there originally.
Bellevue, so technically not Seattle, but
I love Bellevue.
yeah.
I think it's boring
Valve,
compared to Seattle.
based in Bellevue.
Yeah. Is it is it Microsoft or is it no? Microsoft's in Redmond.
They're Redmond. Yeah.
Who's in
Yeah,
Bellevue?
they're
Somebody's
pretty
actually in
close.
Bellevue, right? Is it Amazon?
Valve.
Oh, is it just Valve? Okay. Either way, Control 6. Is it true that you work for Valve?
It is not. I
Okay.
do work for Microsoft, though.
Oh, nice.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
If you want to hook it up with that Office 365.
Yeah,
I
I
was
got
like,
good
what are you
enough.
angling for? Okay, Office
I'll
365.
check into that.
Hey,
for you, for
listen,
sure.
Word is it's a great tool, and I need to get some invoices done. That it's very
Used
helpful
a lot
for
of
that.
Excel myself.
What did you want to talk to us about, Control 6?
Yeah, so basically, I think that Power of Evil didn't do anything wrong going to NA, and the Reddit outrage about him going to Optic and going to AllStars is pretty much bullshit.
Yeah.
And actually, to make it a hot take, I'll even say that the EU backlash on this just kind of shows how petty their region is, and further validates him ditching EU and going to NA.
I mean,
he calls Europe.
Yes, so we're on
Gotta give the hot takes,
an NA show with a bunch of NA pundits, and your opinion is EU is overreacting about one of their top stars leaving.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide 12 hours from now just for my safety.
EU should be mad at the orgs for not being able to retain talent instead of mad at the NA orgs who are going out and pursuing talent as they should.
Yeah,
well, I don't even think they're mad at the NA orgs. They're mad at the players, the EU players.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to better my life in a scenario where it has proven out that EU talent can go to this region and get more money, get more attention, become bigger than I would have ever been in
just for full
Europe.
context, I think people are frustrated because Power of Evil heavily campaigned to be part of the EU All-Star team.
That's called the classic bait and switch.
Yeah, well, I think
He's
people are
thinking
upset
ahead.
about the bait and switch, right?
Yeah.
Well, also Europe is better than North America, and all these players care about winning. So why are they going and making more money and having more fans somewhere else?
Yeah. I mean, they both lose to Korea at Worlds. Good job.
Yeah.
So we had a European caller on, and he also shit on Europe. So maybe that's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know. So, okay. Benefit of the doubt. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. If I am an EU fan and I just see what they lost Prawley, Romaine, who are two of the big names on two of the bigger teams. They lose Power of Evil. They lose. Well, Zabatine wasn't really affiliated. He was like a broadcaster, right?
I mean, whatever.
Who else have they lost? They've lost a lot of big names.
Mithy,
Fabivin.
Smithy, and Fabivin and Sven. That is.
I'm just waiting for perks. I need perks to really seal the deal.
No, Reckless would really seal the deal. He's like
that too. I'll take a Reckless for sure.
But I can understand being frustrated. That being said, I feel like targeting a player is kind of shitty.
Yes. Did you guys read his Reddit post?
Yes.
So what were your thoughts on his Reddit post?
I thought it was extra memey and maybe a little extra defensive than it needed to be. Like he could have just... He's done with that region, right? He doesn't really have to defend himself. But I do think him explaining, I did not know I was coming to North America, and whenever I campaigned about the AllStar stuff, I think that was helpful and maybe shed some light that he's not, trying to sketch people out.
My take on it was the memes, while funny, were kind of counterproductive. When you're trying to be like, hey guys, listen to logic and reason.
Yeah.
And you're memeing, it's a little once again counterproductive.
Yeah,
I think it's
I
fine
assume he was trying to
joke.
take like a light heart to like trying to make
it's a clear indicator that you're insecure about a situation.
Right, because like it's one thing to be like, I'm gonna joke the whole time in this post, but then he's like, all my friends or like the European players who said anything bad about me, you've lost all my respect. Like that combined with memeing, I'm like, what are you trying to say here? Like, are you trying to be serious and articulate your points? Or
German sense of humor, I think, but I don't know.
Sure, I mean, I'm fine with memes. It's just like you weren't like, go fuck yourselves. Like, I'm doing this because it's great for my life. When you're trying to be like, it's wrong to criticize me at all, which is kind of how he felt like he was coming out.
That Reddit responded by memeing even harder with the like, as an NA fan, I am upset that our mid laner is representing you in the AllStar. That thread was amazing.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Reddit proves its value. Where it's like, all right, here's some drama. Let's just meme the shit out of it.
Yeah. Control 6. Sorry, we've been kind of just talking about this amongst ourselves. But did you have any other thoughts on the people thing?
Yeah. So I guess my other big thought is just so this is actually like he's going to NA. He's gonna carry like Lemon and Zig, I think. So like, if he can somehow go to Worlds, like he's a fucking beast. Props to him. He's basically the opposite of like Kevin Durant, like trying to carry some garbage ass team.
Yeah,
Kevin Durant had more help.
He has like the heart of a champion.
Maybe this is a good point. So no Western team can make it to finals or beat a Korean team. So the actual strategy to keep increasing like the achievement level is to make it harder and harder for yourself. So not only did he crank up the difficulty one notch by going to NA, he's cranked it up 2 notches by picking a team that is not TSM or Team Liquid or something.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think about the Reddit post, Control 6, about like how he was like, kind of trying to defend himself about some points while also conceding that the criticism's correct in some ways? Like, that's a little weird.
Yeah, like there's probably not a Reddit post he could make that would like satisfy the people who are pissed off at him. So like, I'm not saying that's smart, but I think as like a relatively impartial observer, if you read that, you're like, yeah, that seems reasonable. Yeah. But it's not going to satisfy the people who are mad at him.
Well, Control 6, thanks so much for calling in. If you have an extra copy of Windows 10, Office 365, Access even, I don't know if you guys still make Access, but...
Do you guys have good laptops you can send me? I could always use a new laptop.
Yeah. They don't actually they do. They make Surface Books now, and they do have.
That sounds awful.
We got the best laptops out there.
Yeah. Well,
what is a Surface Book? Can I play Divinity on it, or League, or PUBG?
Yeah, it's got like a graphics card.
Yeah.
All right, cool. You can send me that then.
Yeah. Any of this stuff, any of this hardware, we'll send you our address after this. Thanks so much, Control 6.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, another great Microsoft person on the show. All right. I think we've got time for just a couple more calls as we're wrapping up. Hopefully, we were able to grab a sub or two. Mark is in the other call. Whoops is here. How's it going, Whoops? Is this the same Whoops that used to work at Surrender at 20?
No.
Okay, sorry. Different Whoops. Where are you calling from, Whoops?
I'm calling from San Diego.
San Diego. Did you call before?
Everybody's in Cali, dude.
No.
Okay.
Well, we had some Iowa and some.
Yeah,
some
we had a
Midwest.
couple.
Whereabouts in San Diego? I used to be from Temecula/Carlsbad area.
Northern San Diego, about like 10 minutes down from Escondido.
Oh, nice. Okay. Very cool. So you're pretty close to Carlsbad. Either way, Whoops, what do you got for us?
So I'd like to talk about how TSM's pickups this offseason won't really change their problems that they've had over the last couple of years.
Okay.
Because
go for it.
Alright, I feel like they picked up Sven and Mithy, they picked up Mithy because they just wanted a shot calling support from what I saw from your interview with Reggie. And I feel like G2 and TSM kind of functioned the same, where they played through their mid laner and just kind of, because they were the best laners in their regions, they could just beat every other team. And that's why when they got to Worlds, they just kind of fell flat. And then they picked up Mike Young, who was this super aggressive jungler on Phoenix 1 while it was a carry jungle meta. And that was the same thing that Sven was doing before he was on TSM. So I'm afraid that bringing on a rookie jungler who doesn't have much experience and having him try to be another voice on the team while there's already 3 pretty strong voices on TSM will kind of make him shy away from how he was on Phoenix 1. And he'll kind of just turn into a ward bot how Sven did.
Okay. So, just really quickly on the heels of that, Nick Allen, the guy who runs CLG, just put in chat, TSM is a little garbage. So he seems to agree with you.
Right.
So, sorry, the first part of your statement was basically that they are playing through their mid laner, which allows them to crush, and then that's why they're flopping internationally, and that this isn't going to change much, especially given that Mike Young is a rookie and might not have the experience he needs. Sorry, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Mark, you want to take this one?
Sure. So I, in some sense, agree. They're saying that, I think one of the pitches that we've heard out of TSM is that Mithy is a more vocal player than a lot of the people that they've had on their team, and should shot call them to victory. I think Mithy has been looking slightly worse each year. I think he's kind of on like the Afromu like skill trajectory, where like he clearly still understands the game, can shot call, do all the macro stuff well, but he's holding up worse and worse in lane every split. And so that part concerns me. The Mike Young point about him turning into a ward bot, I don't want to believe it, but it might be true. Though the rookie part isn't what concerns me. It's just that there's been enough people who have been aggressive junglers before who have gone down a similar route. TSM, while Parth was coaching, while Bjergsen was the mid laner, clearly have a more methodical approach. And it doesn't seem like they really love the instinctual playstyle that sometimes comes with junglers. And a similar thing, I think, happened with Peanut on SKT, where when you have people who prefer a very methodical approach to playing the game, that players who sometimes play instinctually lose their feel or start second-guessing themselves. And I think you could see a similar thing happen with Mike Young.
I also know from like a personality dynamic perspective and managing teams that when you have somebody like this, regardless of how talented they are and they're young, and you come into a situation with all these players who have this reputation, the tendency is for them to become very reverent, and then like it's so much easier for them to get molded.
You're saying Bjergsen is the new doublelift of CLG?
No, not that Bjergsen is intentionally, like just.
Well, I know, but
this guy maliciously,
the rumor was always that, or some of the philosophy that was that Doublelift needed to leave CLG because he created an environment where people couldn't oppose him because he'd been on the roster for so long that it actually became like a bit of an issue.
I'm just saying the natural tendency is people respect Bjergsen so much and other players on the team so much that they will really lean into his potential criticisms, and if he has a preference for a ward butt style jungler, then they will maybe take that into account more than they actually would normally and dictate their playstyle accordingly because they respect this guy to such a degree.
Right. So like I think the point you're making is like with Doublelift, some people just thought he was a bit of an asshole on the team.
Right.
Whereas Bjergsen is like, I'm so good at the game. This is how I approach the game, and then the jungler starts approaching the game the same way, even though it isn't their natural tendency.
Sure. Yep. Exactly.
So, so did we arrive at a conclusion for this conversation?
I think I was kind of on board with the idea that I'm not sure that these changes will be enough. I think they'll still be a great team, but does it result in them having significant improvement at Worlds? I don't know.
Yeah.
This was my argument for why they shouldn't change the roster in the first place.
Whoops, thanks so much.
Performance at Worlds will change.
Whoops, thanks so much for calling in. Appreciate it. Did you have anything else?
I mean, I was also going to mention how somebody mentioned how Song might be able to kind of fix them up a little bit. But I'm not also sure how Song and Reggie and Bjerg might work together.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's interesting. I think TSM is probably, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, TSM more than any other team has like the most owner involvement on the game front, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it'll be a big conversation going into 2018.
Yeah.
They've never missed an NALCS final.
Thanks so much, Whoops.
Yep.
They've won 6 out of 10 NALCS finals.
Yeah.
I think it's probably
but Kelby, whenever you have that philosophy that like TSM always makes it to the finals and oftentimes wins, and you use that
more
as an
often
excuse,
than not, in fact.
You can use that as an excuse to just justify everything. Like, why make a roster change when that roster got them to the finals and to Worlds 2 times and MSI once? You know what I mean?
Because they'll get there anyways, right?
Right. So I guess I'm just saying there's a lot of, it's easy to justify or to hide your flaws if you continue to think like, oh, our thing always works for us.
I'm just saying that I think that, to your point, I think Reggie has a significant impact on the team's performance.
Yeah.
In a positive manner.
So there's 2 things floating around chat right now. It's a lot about like what Bjergsen said on stream regarding Sven and Mike Young. One, he said that he encouraged Sven to play aggressive, and that they said if you don't want to play tanks, that's fine, but tanks were the meta. And I think, yeah, that's true. Tanks were the meta, and that's why Sven played them. But you could see that he still didn't turn a gank in the first. He never turned a gank at Worlds, actually. So there was clearly something where, like, I don't think Sven's that bad. There was something going on there. So who knows exactly if it's Bjerg or not, but there was clearly indecision in his play that did not exist ever before because he was such an aggressive player. Second, the idea that Mike Young and Bjergsen talked and they agreed to play the game the same way, that is just fucking stupid to think is like the reality because they haven't even played a scrim together. So like you can sit there and be like, I think the jungler should play this way, but the first time that Mike Young goes for a dumb invade and dies to Raptors, that's when the real discussion starts. So before that happens, I don't care what Bjerg says.
Yeah.
Fixing the Discord not syncing roles issue. I want to give a shout out to Fred the Free. Did Mark leave the chat? Okay, that's weird.
He's probably pulling some.
Fred the Free for the cheer. OPTSM fan gifted Risen Lazarus a sub and League of Emily a sub. It's Christmas time, people, and Hanukkah and everything else out there. Just it's a great time to be gifting things, and subs to my channel are great. Vashi Nomad subbed. Bronze Feeder Boy has subbed. Alir subbed. 100T donated $5 and said 100T better than TSM. Rio greater than Bjergsen. Rio made it semis. Bjergsen can't even make it out of groups. Lol. And Kid Funny subbed. Mosh Jarkus, by the way, and I requested somebody to sub to do this. He gifted a sub to Nick Allen. So Nick Allen, now a sub to my channel. Thank you so much, Nick, for the support.
Are we ready? Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't know if you were still shilling out.
I've got some more shilling, but I paused when you got here. A Fish.
Yeah, well, here's another guy you can use to
A Fish
shill.
is a sub. Thank you so much, A Fish. Where are you calling from, A Fish?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. We get so many people from D.C.
Are you friends
There's
with Risen Lazarus?
A tiny little part of the country, but we've had, I feel like, 4 or 5 different people from D.C. on the show. A Fish, what do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about moneyballing in the LCS. And for those of you guys that don't know what moneyballing is, it's basically just building a team solely on statistics. And we know Clutch Gaming has been making these enormously long draft files about each player. And do you think that would be successful? I.e., an example, looking at somebody's CS per minute based upon their champion pool. You think this would be positive or negative?
This is a topic, I think.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's possible depending on one, position, and two, meta. So if we know we've been super heavy in, we'll say, getting mobile supports. Do you think I think it's positive if you can find a positive ward per minute. So if you can get a good statistic for that, and then that's your going off of, you can draft a good support based on that. But I think also you can't to some extent because the meta changes so drastically.
What were you gonna say, Kelby?
I was gonna say, so I think that one thing that's really interesting here is that I feel like largely moneyballing exists and has been most successful and was founded in baseball first because it does not account for the team chemistry dynamic in the same way that all other traditional sports do. Baseball is something where pretty much everybody's performance happens on an individual basis, one at a time. And in league and football and basketball and soccer, all these other sports, they have to work dynamically in a group with communication at the same time in order to get things done. Whereas baseball is like the batter comes up to the plate, he hits the ball, the third baseman fields the grounder, he throws it to first, right? Everybody's just doing their core function by themselves. The chemistry thing is not really a factor aside from the dugout and traveling together. So it's much easier to moneyball, in my opinion, and I think why it became an advent in this traditional sport because it exists on an individual performance basis and doesn't take into account the chemistry factor that you can't put statistics behind.
So, I agree slightly with Kelby's point. The one area I think that it does matter a little bit more in baseball would be like batting lineup, and like having high on base percentage before getting into like your more power hitters and like those kinds of things. You can actually get higher runs batted. Like there's a little bit
chemistry thing or a stats thing. Still?
That's true. It's still a stats thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually agree. Now that you put it that way, what I will say just for league is I feel like the statistics are not at all ready for a Moneyball approach. I think league stats are so contextual right now that you would have a hard time using these Moneyball stats any better than like, Jensen has the fucking highest KDA and CSD in the league. Of course I'll go for Jensen or so-and-so, And at that point, you're not really using Moneyball. You're just taking the most obvious, like, yeah, he's shitting on kids. He's probably decent stats.
So I would agree with that you couldn't correlate the top players, but do you think you could find a correlation between what's LCS ready and what's not? Which I would argue yes.
That's an interesting approach because what at all is the same playing field between LCS ready and not? Just because like in baseball, maybe you're talking about AAA talent, which has a slightly more overlap, but like are you talking about like the potential academy teams or like what?
So I would say yeah. So drafting and going either into scouting grounds, what are you looking for out of a basis player? So let's say we know just looking off of statistics that most of your ADCs are going to pull at least 8.3 to 8.7. We'll say just arbitrarily. So in scouting grounds, are you looking for a player that is pulling at least 8.3 or 8.7 CS per minute or higher? Or are you going to be like, if they're not pulling that, they're cut off my team? Or do you think you can kind of make a correlation between statistics on what you need and what you don't need out of positions, I guess, going into the LCS, not versus the top players then, I think would be my next question.
I would be really hesitant to use stats that way for a couple of reasons. One, because at scouting grounds, you have a pretty limited sample size. You're talking about potentially at most 10 games or something, right? You play 5 or 4 best of 3s. So 12 games max, pretty small. Second, the way CS per minute works, is really specific to team comp team play understanding. Like, when can you go to a side wave? When can you not? Like, these kinds of things. And I think you could argue that a great player knows when they can go collect the farm or not. But if you're playing in a team full of other scrubs, for lack of a better word, like, they're not going to understand the macro game well, and your CS per minute could dip because of that. And if you're trying to set some benchmark number for that, where 80 carries in the LCS are expected to get 8.7 CS per minute, and then this kid falls behind, I wouldn't put too much stock in that without looking at his gameplay, and talking with him. And I think as long as those tools exist, I would rather use my eyeballs, and I'd rather use my mouth over using stats.
Okay. Do you think you could do it for any position? So we'll say something that's more pertinent would be like kill participation or wards to a support.
I don't actually think wards are a good stat at all for tracking that, because it's heavily dependent on, so like a lot of losing teams actually do have higher wards per minute numbers than winning teams, because their vision gets cleared out and they need to replace it to have any hope. Whereas if I'm a winning team, I can put a pink down, clear 2 of your wards with it, and then you're warding more than me. And that has nothing to do with the fact that your team's better or your support's better. A lot of those kinds of factors pop up. So I would say AD carry is the best. They are the most basic ass position in League of Legends, where they are expected to do one thing and one thing only, and that's farm up and then not die in team fights. So AD carry is your best position to try and moneyball with. I just don't think that the stats that are currently used are good enough, and I think that's the problem. Not the idea that you couldn't moneyball League, but until you come up with better stats, I think that's the problem.
So if I have another minute, what stat would you like to see then Mark tracked, or do you not know yet?
I don't know.
Because another thing I looked at, fun background for you guys. I'm exercise physiologist, so I looked at weight versus height distribution in triathletes to find their ideal weight. Do you think we can find a distribution between all the stats and come up with a magic number, or no? I agree Mark says no, but I'd like to hear Kelby and Travis's opinions on it.
Kelby.
I mean, for the reasons I already stated, I think that moneyballing a team game like League of Legends is incredibly difficult.
I think so. So I would just say, sorry, your question was like just generally the Moneyball concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people out there that think that Clutch is doing this, but in the interview with me and elsewhere, Sebastian has said that they are actually more just watching film, which is watching VODs, because they don't feel like the stats are there yet. So it kind of corresponds with everything Mark was saying. And so I do think that there are, like, the concept of trying to figure out players that are undervalued and building a roster based off of that is a smart one. And while that's not specifically how moneyballing works, like, that kind of philosophy, I think we are kind of seeing in a couple different places. And I think that that'll make a lot of sense as time goes on. But yeah, I kind of agree that the stats aren't there yet, even though theoretically we should have way more access to stats in League of Legends than we do in traditional sports, because it's literally all a digital game. So anyway, thanks so much, Ivish, for calling in.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. And so we are, while he was talking, I was a little distracted, unfortunately. We're 15 subs away from 200 sub points. And part of that is because of something I'm going to have to go through here. So here we go. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Alfonso. Diarrhea Butt gifted to I'm Silo. Mellow Jello subbed. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Fishy. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Uptight Gnome. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Unified Hearts. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Jose CR. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Matty Ice 6270. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Nhune. International Law subbed. And Tyler Rowe subbed. I think he just wanted me to say his name, or she. I don't presume the gender of Diarrhea Butt, but I think they just wanted me to say that name a lot, so I did.
Kelby, are you subbed to Travis?
No, I'm not subbed to Travis. Travis does not broadcast enough in order to incentivize me to subscribe to his
channel. Someone has gifted me a sub.
Breaking up there, Kelby. Our friendship is breaking up specifically. All right, so I think we should just go a little bit longer. Because
grab these
there's
two and
now
then
a
call
bunch
it.
more subs in the sub voice thing. I pulled them in because the server is not syncing sub roles. So I'm trying to manually add people based off of who I see. Sorry if I can't get you in, and blame Discord and Twitch, I guess.
So what were you saying with that? That you want to go much longer or not? Or what was it? What was your point? 'Cause
we should keep going.
okay. Well, there's 2 more people. Is that enough to keep going? Already in the waiting room?
Yeah, I think we can add a couple subs as long as you guys are okay on timing.
Well, I was
I'm
gonna say I'm running a little low on time.
Okay, well, let's just go until you're good. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Well, when are you? Do you
Just
need to
do a
leave
cutoff
now?
time.
No, it's like, hey, I need to tell someone that they can come over when we're done. But if our cutoff time is like fucking much later,
Okay, well, let's go for another 20 minutes.
all right, that sounds good.
Is
Mark,
that okay?
what is this person's name? Is this your LAN buddy? Are you guys playing video games all night?
Girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was
I
not
will go get the next.
spicy as I wanted it to be. So Mark has a girlfriend.
That's true. Currently trying to figure out. Somebody DM'd me about an issue that I'm trying to resolve.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey.
So who we got on here? Sorry, I'm switching back to the Hotline League Discord. We got Jetto. Jetto, what do you want to talk about? How's it going?
Yes.
Where are you from?
I'm from the. Okay, I live in the Midwest, but can I claim I'm from the East Coast?
I
Is that
don't.
okay?
You can claim whatever you want. It's 2017.
Yeah.
How many
I'll go
acres of
East
corn are around you? I think that determines it.
A lot of flat land, but no corn around me though. So.
All right, you're from
right
the East
there.
Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. So first off, I'm a CLG fan. So Kelby, I hope you're still a CLG fan at heart. But what I want to talk about is how I've been seeing and reading a lot about 100 Thieves, and I think they're extremely fucking overrated. Can we
Okay.
swear
Oh
on that
boy.
channel
Okay.
or not? Can we swear on the channel or not? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you can swear.
Okay. So for starters, I think Prawley and Sumdy are really good. I really do. I think Prawley is a really good coach. But when I look at this this roster, the two fucking huge fucking question marks I have is Medios and Ryu. I think they're completely fucking overrated. Here's why I think that. Every time I see Medios stream, the dude's fucking like 0-4-4, 0-4-5. Like this guy like doesn't give a fuck on stream. Like now maybe that's different on scrims or whatever, but when I watch Medios stream, I just think he's like complete shit. Like no offense to Medios. Obviously he's a better player than me. When I see him play, I just think like, holy shit, dude. Like, how's this guy an LCS caliber player? Then Ryu, I look at all these things like, oh, hey, 100 Thieves, top 5. What the fuck? I saw Ryu play in the summer split, and I saw a guy who could only play one fucking champion. Like, one champion.
You can definitely cuss, but less F-bombs because.
No, you're fine. So,
I like how Kelby's decided to look on Travis's channel.
Yeah.
But seriously, I think Ryu was like extremely overrated. I didn't think he played well at all in the summertime. I think him and Arrow were pretty poor. But Ryu especially, I just think he was really, really poor. And I'm assuming, I guess we can't leak anything, but I guess Cody Sun's going to be their ADC potential. And I think he's overrated as well. And I'm not talking about that Worlds where he like flashed in or, jumped into like 3 people like a boosted animal. I just think over the whole split, I think he was pretty average. So I guess you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think 100 Thieves, I think they're primed for like a 7th, 8th place spot. I think Prawley's really good. I think Sunday's a beast. I like Afro. I think he's going to be a great leader. But like, who's to say Medios and Rio just stop playing like 4 weeks in? You know what I'm saying? And quit. I don't know.
Who do you think?
I love this because we had a caller earlier who was saying they were going to be top 3. And now we've got a caller who's going to 7 or 8. Yeah.
Gosh.
Too bad we need to get him back and have you guys just talk for.
Duke it out.
I can go AFK for a bit.
Why was he saying top 3? Was there one thing that he was saying like, oh hey, was it?
He just believes in all those players.
He thinks like the Medios Ryu crapping out thing would go the complete other direction.
Yeah, because it sounds like if Jetto, if you believed in Medios and Ryu, where would you place that team?
That's a good question. I would say, I guess that's a good question. I would say 5th. But I just, from what I seen, the like Meteos last time he played, the last like 4 weeks he played, when he was a pro, I don't think he played that well. And also Ryu, I think summer split was completely different than the spring split. I guess that's just the eye test. I'm not big into stats when it comes to league, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Does that answer your question, Travis? Or
Yeah. I think that's fine. Yes.
They go from a non-playoff team to a playoff team in his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I guess
your discrepancy is only
okay.
like 2 or 3 slots.
Yeah, so okay, how about this then? I guess I can't backtrack because I'm on, national, Twitch for these viewers.
This is international, by the way.
Yeah,
international. I'm sorry. Oh,
global coverage.
Yeah, that's right. I guess 5th is too high, honestly. You know what? If I can backtrack, I'll say 6.
Okay.
I just don't have a lot of faith in Ryu and Meteos, but like I said, I think I'm not here to shit on 100 Thieves, by the way. I'm not trying to like shit on anyone. I'm not trying to like badmouth anyone. But I just think
you're not bad mouthing anybody.
Yeah. I just think they were overrated by some. Now maybe came in too hype. Maybe I came in, obviously over exaggerating. But I definitely thought a lot of people think they were like top 4, top 5, and I definitely don't see that being.
Jetto, if this is you not trying to, BM anyone, I'd be very curious to hear what it's like whenever you try to BM somebody.
Oh, you better hear what he says about their mothers.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's like, I've been banned 5 times from. Okay, a couple of counterpoints. One is, to my knowledge, P1 was picking up Meteos to fill in a spot. Meteos wasn't really interested in competing, and it. In on it. The other thing is, and Mark, I don't know if he heard these rumors. I think we talked about them at one point in time. Is that the environment in P1 was maybe not the best towards the end, and so I think you can kind of give players a pass in terms of what their performance can be like. If it's harder for players to succeed in lower environments, and that maybe that's why Ryu is going to be somebody you can believe in more, and that would put them in a playoffs position, according to you.
So to chime in, I think the other guy I agreed with. If everything worked out, you could see them being like a top 4-ish team. And I would agree with Jetto as well, where if nothing works out, they will be an 8th, 9th place team. But I think my overall opinion lands somewhere in the middle, because while Ryu did look kind of like shit towards the end of summer, I think there were enough mitigating circumstances, which you heard out of Travis, that like I don't think that's really Ryu's skill level. I think the team was falling apart. I think the environment sucked. He lost hope in the team, and he gave up. And I don't think that makes him, a good person and like, that's what I want to hear. But sometimes you just have to accept the reality of it, that someone, basically gave up. And that doesn't mean he won't be good in the future.
Mark, not to cut you off or anything, but like when I look at this team, I think somebody's a lane beast, correct? I think he's a really good laner.
Oh yeah, sometimes good.
When I look at Ryu though, I see him as a really solid team fighter, but when it comes to laning, I think he's pretty lackluster. And when I look at this bot lane, I'm gonna assume Cody Sun's gonna be the ADC, although hey, I don't know, might be Cutie Pie, we don't know. But when I look at Ryu in mid lane plus Aftermoon and Cody Sun in lane, I think holy crap, now Meteos definitely has to showcase here, gank more, really be a presence, and I think that's a lot of pressure on him. And that's why I think this team really may not have the success, at least in the spring split, that I think a lot of their fans are what people might think. Am I wrong in that type of analysis?
Cop in Twitch chat, Chetto pointed out, his opinion is that 100 Thieves is just a better version of Dignitas. And I would say that I would agree with him if you compare their coaching staff. 100 Thieves is definitely better. And so he said that Dig got 4th. So that's why he believes in 100T.
Well, he knows more than me. I mean, he was a coach here, so Cop, I mean, you would obviously know more than me, so if that's what you think, then I agree with you. Like I said, I'm not trying to shun anyone. Go ahead, Kelby, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that's assuming that rosters are static. Dignitas plays 4th in a different NALCS.
Yeah.
True. So I think without getting into that whole discussion, I think like there is a way where 100 Thieves does suck, where like sometimes Afro and Stixay looked like dog shit in lane. They like just died to random fights.
Someone had to say it.
Yeah, and that could happen again with Cody. But I also think there were times where Stixay and Afro looked fine, and that could easily happen with Cody as well. And I think they do have a clear play style where like Afro, Ryu, and Meteos are all players who play the map well, and if you have a strong top laner, you can potentially set them up to win and things like that. So, I think this is one of the teams that will be one of the most divisive in terms of community opinion for this reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think top 4, like, holy shit, like, I don't see it, but what do I know? Like, obviously you guys are the experts, you guys know what you're talking about, but man, if you're telling me like, hey, they're gonna finish top 4, I'm gonna be like, gosh damn, how weak is the NALCS this spring split?
Well, it might be weak. A lot of these teams look really kind of weird. So, and that was Cop's point to follow up to what Kelby said. He said he's not sure how different the NALCS is, and points to several weaker looking teams than what we had last time.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I was just kidding.
They're not coming last. I think Lurlo's teams would probably come last. I don't know who's on the team, but I think that team.
You don't know who's on the team, but any team with Lurlo on it is going to come in last.
He read the roster but couldn't remember.
Yeah, he just saw Lurlo.
I just noticed. I was like, oh man, this is pretty poor. But
poor Lurlo.
Yeah, I guess to be determined with the 100 Thieves though. We'll see.
I think 2018 is the year of the Lurlo. So I very much disagree.
We heard it here.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jodo, for your call, and thank you for the enthusiasm you brought. It's great. Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
So while we were waiting, we hit 200 subs, courtesy of Diarrhea Butt, who gifted to CNN as fake news. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Nikon Twitch. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Hawkwin42. Diarrhea Butt gifted to JBitJin12. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Limitless. Diarrhea gifted to Nemesis 3X. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Silent Terror. Diarrhea Butt gifted to the Oceana. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Rush in the Sky Now. Diarrhea Butt gifted to MLGB Potatoes. Diarrhea Butt gifted to AJ Hockey. Diarrhea Butt gifted to 77 Hockey. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Naked Homeless Man. Diarrhea Butt gifted to Main Element. And Diarrhea Butt gifted to Raya. We got Wafflefoot on the call.
Louise.
Wafflefoot, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the great nation of Dallas, Texas.
Nation.
Yeah. Oh.
They succeeded already?
Yeah. Okay.
Wafflefoot's a sub, Travis. You should chill that out.
Thank you for subbing Wafflefoot. I don't know if you came in with Diarrhea Butt, maybe Diarrhea Butt and Wafflefoot
I subbed during the last show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Subscription reminder to everybody in the chat: you can use your Amazon Prime Twitch subscription. Give free money to Travis.
Okay, we're turning you up. I already like you. Wafflefoot, what do you got for us?
Okay, so obviously you guys have talked a lot about scouting grounds tonight already. But the biggest implication from scouting grounds, obviously, is that these teams are picking these players up for their academy teams, which is something we really haven't heard much about from any team or from Riot. Like, since the announcement at the beginning of the year that the academy teams were even a thing, that the Academy League was something that was going to be happening, we haven't really seen anything since then. There hasn't been like this is going to be the format of the Academy League, and this is how we're going to support that, and when they're going to go on to stream. But why haven't we heard more about it, and why aren't more players, I guess, excited about being somewhat related to that? Because it's just as guaranteed as LCS is right now.
Yeah,
Can't be relegated because you have to have that team.
Yeah, I think nobody's talking about it because nobody cares about it. Like, nobody cared about Challenger.
It's true.
Until Skara and his group of bandits showed up to meme all over the place
and lose a shit ton.
And I think Riot probably knows about that. The other thing, by the way, is there's just so much to talk about right now. It's a good chance that, like, if you bring up Academy, it just kind of gets lost in the commotion of it, right? Like, we still have rosters that haven't been officially announced.
Yeah.
And then we got AllStars this week. Like, I'm looking at my content schedule, and it's very intimidating because there's just so much stuff going on. Mm-hmm. If people started talking about Academy teams and Academy players and all that stuff, like, it's just going to be hard, I think, for anybody to care about it.
That's fair.
I don't know if you have a different take on this, Mark.
No, I mostly agree. And having talked to some coaches and orgs, I think how do I put this? They don't necessarily see a tremendous value in academy teams themselves. Okay. Where, like, obviously you can bring players in who are young and you can work with them and get a hands-on feel for how this guy's going to pan out. And I think they all see the value in that, but there's no incentive to winning, that league really at all. There's almost no incentive to really bring in big name players for that reason. And so that means that it makes more sense to bring in unknown quantities than known quantities and just get hands-on experience with these guys. And I think that's why if someone signs random solo queue player number 11, you're not going to see it show up on Twitch or on Twitter or on Reddit. And I think it makes it not much of a headline grabber, which especially in the current environment where there's all these new teams and players and all this other stuff that Travis is talking about.
Yeah. I guess my biggest thing that I'm thinking about with it in regards to it is in the LCS right now, the only team that I've really seen take advantage of the Academy team style thing is Liquid with, Team Liquid Academy, Curse Academy before that. Their whole season last year could have been just totally ruined because the team wasn't meshing all that well. And then they were like, oh, well, we've got this Academy team. Let's bring in Matt and Dardoch right now. And they salvaged a relatively good split out of it. So that was their, I guess, almost backup plan without having to panic and be like, oh shit, well, we got to go find someone else across, in Europe or here and pull them in now. We got a little bit better of an experience with them in their Academy team before.
Yeah, and I mean, like CLG did their Academy team stuff. A lot of teams have used Academy teams before. I'm not saying that they're useless. I'm just saying that it's not surprised no one talks about them.
That's fair.
And Twitch chat has some awful opinions on this. There'll be stars on Academy teams playing in games that don't matter by any metric at all. That sounds like something the fans will enjoy. Or let's send them off on Rift Rivals to go get smashed by competitive EU teams. So then, that's a great storyline.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I was just gonna say I want the Academy to be awesome, just kind of like everybody wanted Challenger Series to be awesome. I guess specifically for the reason that it's a guaranteed spot that is there now.
I think if you look at Riot switching from best of threes to best of ones, and also with these new teams coming in, I think if I'm Riot, what I am doing, and especially the best of one situation, signals to me that it is time for Riot to just focus on this core product, right? Which is these 10 teams, these 10 games each week, and the players that are there. Let those teams build their brand, let those players build their brand, and really figure out how to make that as cohesive as possible, and then start to expand into maybe broadcasting some of these Academy games and trying to make a bigger deal out of them and that kind of thing. Because I do think that there's an oversaturation or watered down situation that can occur if you start to try to be here's the 5 players on Optic, but also here's the 5 players on their Academy team. And then you start ending up in situations where you've got Optic, these 5 players, then Optic, these next 5 players, etc. I think it's just better for them to focus on the main product for right now.
And to be clear, I think they will still push Academy teams to an extent, but it's going to be for the hardcore fans who want to get invested in Academy players who might get drafted and might have a bigger impact on the league. I don't think they're going to try and push it to be like Travis said, a product that is as important as the NALCS.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Wafflefoot, for calling in. Mark, I know you only have a couple more minutes. Do you want to take another caller, or should we wrap?
I grabbed one final sub so you could chill it out.
Thank you. By the way, thank you to EasyMoto and Real Foxy1 for the sub. Ready whenever you are. Nova Bolts.
The only reason he's in here is because he's got a picture of Azale.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love the Azale picture next to your on Discord. For those that can't see, he's got a great picture of Azale.
I love it. Azale tweeted once, and I responded to him with this picture, and he liked it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is this the one that started the meme? You tweeted that?
No, I didn't start the meme. No, I
okay.
ripped it off. I stole it.
Yeah, not the let me talk meme, but the one at Worlds where he was just super excited looking.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Nova Bolts, where are you calling from?
I am in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, thank you for calling in. Thanks for being a sub, and hopefully you're holding it down in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yep, it's nice and 80 degrees here. 85.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, thank you for pulling me in, Travis, Mark, and Kelby. Good evening.
All me.
Yeah.
Yeah, all Mark.
Anytime. I'll pull you in anytime. Anything.
Well,
so
what I wanted to ask or talk about is your opinion on the way rosters are being built, and if teams are really considering the aspect of synergy, or if synergy is more based on meta than it is player skills. Because you have teams like Liquid, who seem to pretty much have the roster already set in place from day one. You don't really know if Double Lift and Ole will synergize that well. Double Lift, Pobelter, and Smithy have all played together. You don't know if Impact will really go well. But you have the 100 Thieves, the 100T interview with Nadeshot that Travis posted, and he was talking about they don't have an ADC yet because they really want to see if Aframu will synergize with one.
So that was Prolly, I think you're thinking of. Prolly was the one I
Prolly.
mentioned,
Yeah.
So the question is, are people rushing to build rosters just based off of talent rather than necessarily synergy, or taking into account sort of what the meta will look like and different teams can be stronger in different situations?
Yeah, because we've seen like the power teams. You see it, you're just like, wow, this roster's amazing. It'll do great. And they have all these awesome players, AllStars, KT Rolster, for example. Although they did do good, they didn't make it. But,
yeah.
Just teams that look really good on paper but don't synergize if teams are really taking that into account or if they need to.
Yeah.
Kelby?
What do you think, Kelby?
I think they definitely need to. This is something that we talked about on the first show that I was on, where the way that the market is set up right now is that there's this kind of onus on the organization side to grab talent as quickly as possible, especially the big names that exist. So people, in a perfect world, I think you're absolutely right, where if you didn't have to worry about talent getting snatched up, you run games or you have more in-depth conversations to see what the synergy could potentially be like. But for fear of losing these guys that on paper are so big, I feel like people are just grabbing the best names that they can possible and building rosters around that instead of taking account for the synergy factor like you're discussing. And yes, it is very important, but everybody's just using the mental approach of like, well, all these rosters are new, so everybody's bearing the same risk, so I'm not any worse off than anybody else, but I am better off in the fact that I'm grabbing the best talent I can. So
yeah, I think sometimes teams probably get wrapped up in just talent, but
Yeah.
I think they are trying to take synergy into account. Like it's much better to just have a strong player than like, oh yeah, this guy's really communicative but gets destroyed in laning phase. It's much harder to win like that than like hopefully finding synergy. Like some examples from this season where I think like maybe the synergy thing might not work out is like, I don't think Impact is a replacement for Flame. I think they're actually really different players. So that might be one where you're like, oh, it's Immortals roster plus Impact and Doublelift. Well, Doublelift needs to carry and lane a lot harder, which he can do. But it's not like when you had Flame just like 1v2ing in the top side and drawing a lot of pressure by himself while Smithy runs around the map and make things happen. Like Impact isn't always that kind of player. So I think sometimes you have that concern, but sometimes you just take who you think is, gonna be able to help. And Impact's clearly a team player and will work with the team.
Yeah. I have similar thoughts on it. I mean, I think, look, in the off season, all these guys every owner I've talked to have said they basically didn't sleep for 72 hours or like barely slept because it was like a crazy thing where you're just trying to get players before anybody. And so I think in that type of environment, you don't really have the time to kick back your feet up and say like, all right, what is the best way to build this? Because chances are by the time you figure that out, the whole environment has changed. Now suddenly the support you wanted is going over here. And suddenly, does that mean you have to get a different AD carry if you're trying to go with this? So I'm not surprised to say things going the way they did. I expect we'll have calmer off-season in the future. But, yeah, that's kind of my take for now. So, Either way,
Great.
Thanks so much, Nova Bolts, for coming on. Thanks for being a sub. And hope to have you on again in the future.
No problem. Thank you.
And that's the show. In the chat right now, I'm going to put the podcast. Mark doesn't know this now. Hotline League. Somebody reached out, a viewer, and was willing to put together a Hotline League podcast feed. In the next episode, I'm sure we'll go up there. So if you missed it, and you want to listen to an audio version of it, you can do so there. We'll see how that goes. I'm just sort of experimenting with it, and hopefully Mark doesn't have an issue with it. Right, Mark?
This should be mine, Travis. I need some part of this pie.
All right. Well, Mark and I obviously have things to figure out. Kelby, is there anything that you want to say at the end of the show here?
Yeah, I just want to thank the Chainsmokers for the couple years of incredible music that they produced before they decided to switch and be a pop group.
Mark?
That is very different. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure to share this with everybody, all your friends. Get them to watch Hotline League because it's the best League of Legends talk show out there these days. You can follow my Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, everything, Twitch channel, all DMarkZ, I'm pretty sure. Thank you guys for watching. It's been a lot of fun.
Counterlogic Gaming in the Twitch chat says unblock Kelby. So even CLG is behind unblocking Kelby. Clearly Nick got drunk and accidentally logged into the wrong Twitch account because I don't know why anybody on CLG is aware of that. For everyone watching, thank you so much. I think we've had some really good viewership the past couple weeks this week. Down a little bit from the past couple weeks, but still looking pretty good, and so that feels really good to see. A ton of subs coming in, not just from Diarrhea Butt 69, who, Lord, I wish you had a different name.
He probably
I appreciate the support so much, and from everybody else, thank you so much. I'm going to hang out at the end of the stream I'm going to take a break, say goodbye to these guys, and then I'll be back in a minute.
Travis, how many were from Diarrhea Butt and how many were other people?
I think like 20 of them were from him, and maybe another 10 or 15 were from other people. We gained a lot on this channel or this show for some reason. Maybe he just encouraged other people. Hopefully some other people will when I come back from the break and hang out with folks. But either way, thank you so much everyone for supporting. This goes up on YouTube. If you missed any part of it, it'll be up on the morning, and obviously the podcast will go up as well as soon as our friend can help us out with that. Thanks to Kelby for being on the show again. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll have a ton more videos coming up this week. Maybe more videos than I've ever posted other than maybe Week 1 of Worlds, because I've got 7 more waiting in the can, and then AllStars, and there's something happening on Wednesday that's interesting. So much cool stuff. So thanks everyone for watching.
What's the Wednesday thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, what is the Wednesday
Am I allowed to talk about the Wednesday thing?
Yeah, you're
I don't know. What's the Wednesday?
TSM is having a media day, courtesy of Gillette, and I will be there to interview TSM players. So there'll be some stuff. It'll be the first time anybody on the roster has talked about the new lineup. And so looking forward to chatting with them then. And I'm sure some other media outlets are going to be doing some stuff on that day too. And they're looking for an MC and reached out to a mutual friend of ours to do it, but she has class that day, unfortunately, which is too bad because Gillette, very generous. Let's put it that way. Either way, thanks everyone.
You should get Doublelift to go, and he can help you.
Yeah, that would be great to just have Peter do the interviews. I'm sure Twitch chat will love that, but unfortunately he's going to be in Seattle, so he'll be unavailable.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. Either way, we're going to go to break really quickly, and when we come back, it'll just be me, so really, it's worth sticking around. That's what I'm getting at here.
That's what you think.
Yeah. Wait, really? Okay, well, I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark and